Hello and welcome back. Today, we are going to be doing a starting steps here as Mali, doing the first 50 years, and by first 50, I mean maybe first 40, kind of showing them off. I really do think that they are a sleeper pick. I think they are going to be a lot better than people think they are. I think it's maybe going to be the best colonial nation by virtue of their having malaria protection, or at least they can really gain control over a large chunk of Africa and are well poised to do that, as well as being geographically much closer to Brazil, and so you can actually colonize Brazil relatively early compared to other nations while still having pretty good access to the Caribbean. You can see the trade winds are such that they are in good shape here. Now, Mali has some content flavor, and at first blush, it doesn't seem that good, but they also have the hidden secret flavor of the sub-Saharan African countries, which we'll take a look at in a second. But in terms of what they have, what really stands out is they do have 5% discipline. It is pretty nice for them to get the inflation reduction. The gold output, you get a lot of gold output modifiers, so 15%, relatively modest, but we're happy to have it, considering Mali has a ton of gold, and the monthly inflation is probably going to be what is a little bit better for us, because it will save us from spiraling into an inflation sort of issue. We kind of coming down, we get a couple other things that are useful. We get infantry power, which is quite nice. Really overall, in terms of techs that they do have, they have some pretty good military techs overall. Also, they get their own barracks in the first age, which means they will not be pressed for manpower early and can forego professional armies if they find themselves in a weird spot where they are behind on tech, although I do think you can manage the tech. You also get the West African stuff, of which there is the very significant caravan shop, which can be built in any location that has these kind of requirements, which are not shown here, but it is roughly speaking kind of the northern-ish portion of Africa here. I think it's before you get to the tropical area, and this is a really, really nice building because it allows you to spiral up trade without needing urbanization. Generally speaking, marketplace, very effective, requires urban building. This can be built in rural. So let's click in as Mali and take a look at the hidden secret flavor as well. So the hidden secret flavor is this age 1 subtree that all sub-Saharan African nations get, or I'm pretty sure it's all, maybe there are some exceptions, but we have in here 5% proximity cost, which is an insanely strong modifier. We also get a little bit of cav power, going to go nicely with our unique cavalry, at least in the first age, but we don't have that much unique cavalry if I recall correctly, so that's fine and well enough. And monthly legitimacy, this is actually a really nice modifier. Generally speaking, you want to keep your legitimacy up. This cost of court in terms of the slider, and this is going to be a thing where we have 1 natural decay. If you can overcome this, or overcome as much of this as possible, and you can see we're already overcoming 0.3 plus an additional 0.19, so that's 0.49 base. If you can overcome a lot of this and stack a lot of monthly legitimacy, you can decrease what is, in my opinion, generally your most expensive slider, which is the cost of court slider. So that is going to be something that is quite valuable for us. We're not going to go for that first. And also, we have tolerance of the true faith and tolerance of heathens. Relative to other Muslim countries, which can stack a ton of tolerance of heathen, you get even more as Mali. If I recall correctly, you could even get more tolerance of heathens than you do true faith if you're stacking really everything. And then even a culture's capacity, strong tech there, and the relatively modest but still quite solid max literacy for clergy, manpower, and cav power. And so overall, this tree is really, really powerful. It makes nations that are in sub-Saharan Africa pop off a little bit harder. Ethiopia, Kanem, Bornu, and Mali. And okay, they are not or the Kanem Empire, they are not necessarily insane nations, these, but this does give them quite a bit more extra juice that you might not be aware of just looking at their own content. Alright, so let's talk about kind of our material conditions, because Mali's got some interesting things going on beyond just having a ton of gold. They also have a really big advantage as it relates to colonization, because again, they're really close to Brazil. We saw the trade winds, this type of thing, but they also have all of this land that they can colonize. And so one of the really important things is pops. And if we open the pop map mode, at first blush, we don't have that many pops, but we have all these subjects. We're going to integrate those. Those will be 1.5 5 million. And then we have all of this down here, which is a ton of pops. And generally speaking, colonizing high pop areas is bad because it requires you to give up so many of your own pops in order to colonize them. But with Mali, we recycle these pops back into our market. Within the market, we can migrate. And so when we colonize and send our pops out, we don't really lose them. We don't send them into colonies. We send them into these high pop areas, and then they just migrate back because the newly created places are just going to have really low development. Incidentally, we just have a very low development overall, but they're going to have a really low development, and so they're going to want to migrate away anyways. And so we don't actually lose pops in the net. In fact, we gain pops because as we colonize all these areas, we will gain all these pops. These pops are also not going to get hit by the Black Plague. So we actually have way more pops than it looks like we have, you know, kind of at first blush here. Now back to the resources. This is the crown jewel, outrageous, of our kind of what we have going on in Mali. We have an enormous amount of gold. On top of that enormous amount of gold, we have in several of these gold locations, gold mines of Mali, 25% gold output, which is really, really strong. We have saffron in terms of other premium resources, and a lot of it. So we are going to be really, really good with the trade once we have enough range to reach other markets, which we don't currently. We also have decent middling resources here. We have a good supply of cotton. It's kind of maybe not as ideally located in terms of being spread out as we would like, but we do have it. We have a couple dyes, not a ton. We have a couple gems, actually pretty solid amount of gems considering that you generally don't get a lot of those together. We have the rice, which is really nice in terms of being able to urbanize pretty well. This is an enormous amount of rice for our population as well, so we will be able to support basically as much urbanization as we want. And I think I did mention the iron, but we also have a good chunk of iron, so that is going to be really, really good for us on that front. On the topography slash vegetation front, we have kind of this upper corridor where we are going to have good proximity, relatively speaking, and we can push that in with Niani, and we have some interesting things going on with where we want the capital, Niani, and all this tension, but in particular, something to note is jungle gives plus 50% proximity impact. So jungle's going to be really, really expensive to move through, and this is going to be a defining characteristic, and it creates a lot of awkwardness about where do we place the capital. I think Niani is where we're going to stick with, but just to kind of talk through some of the options is we could move the capital up to this farmland, and then it's going to be next to a bunch of other grassland, which is going to develop a little bit better. You see minus 20% dev growth, so it's going to be easier to get huge pops, huge dev up in these areas, so a little bit better for an urban center in terms of the opening. It is a plateau farmland though, so the plateau has negative proximity, and the farmland has negative proximity, for 5% and 12.5%. So even over here might be nice. And when you look at this location, it really is kind of nice from the perspective of there's like 7 other locations bordering it. Same with this location, same with this location. So from a proximity perspective, you will be next to like right on top of 7 other locations. So really nice as an urban center. Whereas Niani doesn't really have that. We are next to a lot of locations, yes, but a lot of them are kind of these woodlands instead of these flatlands. But okay, in terms of other characteristics, not that one, we have rivers everywhere, which is going to be a really nice thing because we can make these veins with these pound-lock canals. So we're expecting to make lines of cities kind of forming veins through these areas, especially over here to this location in order to first get our sailors to be able to explore. This is going to be a normal play pattern, as well as eventually down to here for our best natural harbor in Medina. We will want to get to there eventually. If we ever want to push naval control, we will want to push it out of here because that will be so much better. It's going to be really hard to get beer done to be the type of harbor we want. You can kind of do it, but other than that, this is the only other good harbor, so really going to struggle on the harbor front, but we do have this also kind of upper area that we can push through, and I think as a consequence of this enormous upper area, we're probably going to want to go land value instead of naval, because as time goes on and we stack more proximity cost reduction, we are going to be in a good spot to be able to maybe even push control kind of even as far as Kano, this type of thing, in which case we can make use of a lot of this territory up here. Okay, so let's take a look at our internal political situation headlined by our unique reform, which is Bad. I think that we don't really like this too much. It is nice that we get a little bit of stability decay and crown power at this point in the game. It's not the worst. We kind of don't like the trend towards decentralization, and we cannot slot it out. As far as I know, it's just infinitely blocked. Maybe if we switch to like a republic, it gets unblocked, something like this, but this kind of bricks one of our slots. It's not the end of the world, but it is a little bit annoying to kind of kick things off. Also, we have these other blockers which prevent conversion. They also give satisfaction. They're really not too bad, especially if we have a lot of, acceptance of heathens, this type of thing. If we convert a bunch of slaves anyways, what will end up happening is, or if we convert a bunch of people, we will free all the slaves. That's not necessarily a good thing, although we don't want a ton of slaves because they can only work RGOs, but we're going to be pretty RGO based for a big portion of the game, so that's not going to be a priority. What is going to be a priority is going to be banal lordship. Banal lordship, real bad. -5 max control, yuck, ew. And as a consequence of this, we are going to want to push plutocracy relatively early in order to go after the clout of the nobility, the aristocracy. We're not really committed or really needing these modifiers too much, and so we probably want plutocracy anyways. As things start, we kind of have a normal-ish looking values tree with nothing really standing out. I suppose the fact that we have 60 land value is incredibly nice and is something we're really happy about for that proximity cost through land. We are going to look to push it to 100. I think we're going to stay land values. I think this is the way to handle this, but some things that we maybe want to do a little bit different. We're going to push centralization as everyone, but we might want to stay serfdom. Peasant max tax is a really, really nice modifier if we can make it work, and this is especially good considering our rural areas are gold locations. The gold locations are almost entirely peasant tax split. If we take a look at one of these locations and we look how the tax base gets split up, oh, actually, there's a decent amount towards the Umara. That's because they're really powerful and we have a decent chunk of aristocracy. But as these nobles go away, which they will in these rural areas, it will be an all-peasant split because there's no burghers there. So what that's going to mean is that max tax on peasants is going to really, really allow us to push an enormous amount of wealth into our coffers if we have a big chunk of max tax. So I do think we kind of want to avoid free subjects, which gives a decrease in max tax. We are going to have to find some source of prosperity to make this work, but this is an idea that as a result of our rural stuff being more valuable because we have all this gold and saffron, maybe we do want to push in this way. Similarly, we probably actually want to stay traditional economy relatively long for the raw materials output, at least until we get like stuff like Mercury Patio, which gives us plus 100% gold output. But even still, this 20% will be pushing saffron. The pop cap will help us to grow better. And so this is reasonable for us to stay on this, especially considering the quality of our RGOs. And so those are a couple things that we're maybe going to go differently. We also have mysticism and jurisprudence, courtesy of being Muslim, so that is going to be good for us. To kick things off with the cabinet, we've assigned some cabinet members already, 2 crown guys, just looking to have crown guys in, and we assigned one person who's very competent in both admin and military. Kind of a nice little role, to be fair. You can just keep restarting and re-rolling if you wanted to. We're not really trying to do that, but we do happen to get a little bit lucky on here. So we're going to take the guy with the highest, Diplo that we have assigned, and we're going to have him change societal values and help us to push centralization. We're also going to kind of come in here, and the state privileges, we still aren't having much of a trend towards centralization. We are going to give away the centralization on this thing, which gives 0.05. We're not really caring about the tolerance of true faith much as we're just trying to push the centralization. We're going to go for the 0.1 here, and then we are also going to double check if we can do the one in here, which is going to, it has a requirement, I forget exactly what it is, the monetary fiefs, and so we are going to go for this as well. We don't mind losing the max tax on nobles, especially because we're planning on going plutocracy anyways, and this will help us to push centralization faster. Also, we could probably give out more reforms, a courtesy of having really happy nobles right now, and so maybe we pick up another 1 or 2. We look to max out the commoner tax, make sure it's up there. We see that we probably have a little bit more room, considering it is at equilibrium. So let's give the commoners another thing. We're not going to give them a centralization thing. Why don't we, for now, free subjects is maybe something we want to avoid too. Why don't we give them a progress progress towards communalism. It's going to make our Umara a little bit, Ulama a little bit upset, but I think that's probably a good open for us here. Coming back to the cabinet, we are going to kind of have two other actions we want to do. I think what we want to do is we want to strengthen government. Just want to avoid really low legitimacy. We do have a disaster, a unique disaster, so we kind of want to get to the safe spot pretty quick, and we did put in a few privileges at game start to open, so that'll help us with that. And then for here, I think what we're going to use is increase province control. Very strong. This is just like, I think it's clearly the strongest one if you micro it in circles, and we're going to do a little bit of that. And so we're going to put it down on these gold piles, and so that is going to massively increase the control. Right now at base, it's got a max control of 38, now it's up to 77, and the decay is 0.5, so we can shuffle this in theory between 5 provinces, and that's kind of the amount of provinces we have. Our micro on this won't be perfect, but it will be solid enough, and so that's kind of what we have going on, kind of as our opener here. We do want to slot in something that is going to appear in the next stage, I think, in terms of what we're going for, so we will leave this open for now. For our research, we're just going to go for the proximity. I think that we're probably going to go for most of our tree in here, or a big chunk of a tree, certainly the legitimacy, and then the tolerance, and I don't think we need the culture capacity yet, so maybe after this we can go for the burgers max level. And this would be fine enough for us, something like this, and then tolerance of the true faith over here. But that'll be our little opener for the tech, where these possible clerics in towns and cities are going to be nice. They're going to help to juice up our economy. The literacy is going to be nice as well. Literacy on the burger is also going to be nice. The burger potential is going to help to dilute the noble power. And then this will give us a big chunk of satisfaction on our most accepted pops. And the heathen one will also give us a big chunk on the pops that we do not accept, or we do not have our religion, which is most of them, so that's a thing. Another thing worth noting is the culture, where we have several cultures in here in a kind of small minority. They're going to be difficult for us to accept later. We do have quite a bit of prestige at the outset here, so we're going to want to accept Kissi, we are going to want to accept Kepele, and this is going to help us. Colonization is based on accepted pops. By accepting these pops, we're going to make it easier for us to colonize. So we're just going to accept all these guys, and we have plenty of space here, both courtesy of our Pact of Umar, state privilege, which, wait, why do we have this in here? We shouldn't have that in there, because we don't even have these guys yet. The Dhimmi, that's kind of a little bit curious, but the Gabara here is going to be a policy in our distribution of power. At least at the outset, we're probably going to get off of it because of the decentralization, but for now it's going to allow us a little bit more capacity. I don't think there's too much Dayula. I guess there's some down there, but that's not a colonizable place, and so maybe we leave it at this. Well, let's check how much this is going to cost us. It's only going to cost us another 0.1 to accept these guys, so I guess we could go for it. No, we can't go for it. We don't have enough of them, a high enough percentage. If we do this later, after we start taking out places, we're going to have too many pops, and so we're not going to be able to accept these guys later. So by doing this now, we will make our colonization easier. We are going to get back to that in a second. So now we have the interesting question of how do we spend this enormous chunk of cash we start with? Which is the question of the hour. We can build buildings with a price collapse at minus 33%. We're also going to have minus 33% on our rural stuff, so we really can build anything. And I think we're going to open up with kind of just taking a look here at what we can build relatively profitably. We see Spinners Guild, Paper Guild, Jewelers Guild. We know that these are the best industries. A little bit curious that the Tailors Guild is not in there, because very often these guys are the premium. They are the creme de la creme for starts, but I guess it's a little bit more for the Europeans. That is going to be the case. But by checking in this location and checking the profits, we can kind of see in an unadulterated way what is going to be best. We also do see Distillers Guild is looking relatively reasonable. So that's going to be nice. We will come in here and we will sort by the panel view, and we will come in first, and we are going to build a manpower building. We are going to build the sergeantry. which is going to give a little bit of crown power to the location, but more importantly, we want to recruit exactly 1 unit, and so this is going to allow us to do that. That way we can make our ruler general for the plus 25% crown power. Something notable is we can build these suckers, so we're going to max these out. Trade is going to be really valuable, especially because our gold is actually not going to be that valuable right now. The reason being, if we look at our market and we look at Neon E and we type in gold and take a look, there's only 2 demand for gold and there is a 10 supply. We want to create more demand, and so we want to export our gold, and so we need merchants to be able to do that, and this is going to give us like 15 trading capacity just right off the bat, which is going to be quite nice for us. We can get an additional trading capacity in the Funduk, or however this is pronounced, which is going to be a nice building. It can only go in cities. Just kidding, we don't fill the requirement there. We will probably want to build marketplaces too in areas that are far from the capital. I think we'll slap one down there, and we will look to see what we maybe want to do with our kind of urban areas. We have 2 of these urban areas. We want to build certain things up taller for economies of scale, so I think we'll throw down some tools here. That way our wood stays nice and cheap, which is going to kind of come into play on our next round of building. And then in here we saw that cloth was the most profitable thing, so we'll add a couple of cloth there, and in fact we can add a couple more because this is a city, so it's going to have more build capacity. So we'll push that up really quick there, and that will be nice for us. We know that the madrasas are really good at converting, but everyone's blocked from conversion right now, so we'll leave those down for now, and we will check, make sure we have temples. We do. It would be nice to build bridges, but we don't have any roads yet. We'll get on that. And the settlements are going to be quite nice, give us a lot of population growth. The prices are collapsed right now, and so I think we're just going to spam settlements also in our nearby subjects that we might annex relatively quickly. In fact, let's just spam them in all of them. We really love population growth, and so just getting more pops in this way is going to be something we are interested in. We're not going to city over those places in particular. We also see in here that we can build Royal Garden. This is going to give us monthly diplomats. We do not have enough tin. We'll look to resolve that at some point later, but with that, we won't need to spend much on Diplo, and we will be able to still maintain a little bit of positive Diplo. We're just going to minimize what we're spending there on that, and then just taking a look, consumer goods, I think we're set in terms of what we want to build out of there. The next big thing is we want roads. And so we want roads, in particular, to our gold. We want roads to our gold, and we want roads linking up our urban cities. So we're just going to do that, and we're just going to pay for it, because the gold is going to be so profitable, I think that it won't really matter if we don't have a collapsed price of, of sand yet. Yeah, our sand's at minus 9%. We're not going to mess about with trying forever to collapse it. Instead, we're just going to build to all of our gold locations and all of our urban locations. So we're going to do that there, and then we are going to take a little bit of a look. We have an urban location up there, and we are going to build up there, and so that is going to be a majority of our money with that expenditure, and I think this is it for what we're going to spend. It's not too bad for us to float money. This is going to be fine, and we can peel off a week for slave conversion. I think that we generally want to go the humanist route, so let's do that. Allow slave conversion, at least for now. It's not going to matter, they're not going to convert because we have those estate privileges blocking them. And we'll peel off a week and see kind of where the trade leaves us, as well as the unpolished leaves us, in terms of where we're kind of starting with the economy here, where we're starting with, roughly speaking, 20 ducats of income, and which this will adjust down a little bit as trade kind of normalizes, but maybe somewhere in the 15 to 20 range is our starting point here. We will come in and we will start annexing this gentleman. I think we could annex this guy as well. Both of these are reasonable. The cotton and wheat, maybe better short term. We do have the gold though, but we already have so much gold. I think that we're probably going to want to urbanize up here. We're definitely going to want to urbanize up here, but we really can't push control all the way over here. So I'm not sure about annexing that guy immediately. So let's go for this guy. Start annexation in the north a little bit here for that. And we'll take a little bit of a closer look at colonization here. So it looks like they maybe tweaked some colonization stuff, because it used to be the case that because this was our primary culture, the second we start colonizing it, it would just colonize instantly. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore, so we're actually going to hold off on the colonization. We don't want to quite incur this big a cost, or like 20% of our income type of cost. 10% would kind of be okay for our first colonial charter, and so we're going to leave this be for now. We're going to do a little bit more stuff with our Diplo, namely we are going to start building a spy network over here, and then we're going to start improving relations with some of our subjects. We're going to go for Jaluf because they hate our guts, and so that'll work well for us, and maybe we annex here, then Bambuk, then Jaluf, in order to get started on sailors. We need sailors to explore the Seven Seas, as one usually does, and so in order to get kind of our move on colonization, getting sailors relatively early will be important, but one of the bigger problems is we will have difficulty accessing institutions. It'll be difficult for us to grab banking, which we need in order to get barks, to really get a lot of maritime going, and also to get docks, which will allow us to get a good chunk of sailors, and so things will be a little bit rough. In theory, we do want to move up and go after something up here to help with the institutions, so we're actually going to build a spy network in Slemchen. Not because we want to create claims or anything, but the reason we want a spy network here is that we are going to use the steel maps interaction to kind of map this out, which is going to help us in our dealings with Morocco, and even maybe perhaps give us a connection to them via trade, because right now we can't trade with them, which is kind of a little bit of an unfortunate thing. If we take a look at gold, we will probably be able to see, hey, it's still really cheap, but one of the problems is we might have some trades going on, but it's not gold, because the gold is going to be cheap in here as well. And so this is going to be a little bit of... It's not cheap in here. Maybe we can force export it to there, yeah, let's actually force export a few of these to get them some supply and demand, and then maybe the market will be a little bit more intelligent after it does some of that. So we'll put in a little bit of trades here and there in order to get things going on those. Alright, so we roll up our first parliament, which is going to be a little bit complicated because of our dual desire to get onto both plutocracy and centralization. We're going to go expanded road network. We're probably just going to pass a couple laws and not actually benefit from the centralization just because it's our first parliament, and there's a little bit more value in getting the laws through. We can see that we can get a law through immediately, and yikes, that's not a lot of support for us. Whoa. Now, we could put in the estate privilege that helps us out with the Ulama or the Umara, giving us a little bit more support, and that will incidentally make them happier. And the reason I think that this is kind of okay is because we have a small parliament right now. It's not really a bad kind of privilege to put in, and it will give them a little bit more teeth in this, but really not... I don't think we can get to another 50 ball here. Our nobles... Maybe if they were happier with us. To be fair, reduced opinion gives a very low amount, and we could give them a privilege, but we don't really want to give them too many privileges. We could give them this, but this is hurting our ability to decay the aristocracy, right? So that's maybe not something we want. Eventually, we do want to give them land rights, and so this is going to be something we're interested in. Don't mind giving them a little bit of a trend towards serfdom. Maybe this is a little bit benign, and will help us to try and hit 100 for our parliament, rather than just only a 50 support parliament. Because every interval of 50, we are getting more stuff, basically, because everything costs 50, and we would love to change 2 laws, so we're going to reduce opinion on him. We have bellicose support, we're going to go for that, and then we just have to get in another bit. Looks like bellicose support again, and then these guys twice. We can also let them cool down a little bit, let some months pass, and then try and pass this, but it's looking kind of maybe a little bit on the rough side. We will go for our law change, and we're just going to go for the law change that is going to help us the most in terms of pushing plutocracy. Currently, our plutocracy or our aristocracy is actually under 20, which is really nice because we don't have a bunch of the aristocracy stuff. So we're going to just lock in a trend away from it by switching from the noble control controlled mining operations, which give a trend here towards, or let's show it. They give a trend towards the aristocracy here of 0.1, and then we are going to be swapping these over to the burger ones, which are going to give a trend to plutocracy. And so with that, once the law fully completes getting in, it's going to be giving us a plutocracy trend. So we're going to be pushing both right now, and we might even want to push plutocracy first. Getting rid of that really nasty privilege is kind of worth it, and from a sequencing perspective, it'll maybe be a little bit better because we have stuff like feudal administration that we want to get off of. But we don't want to get onto central council, which gives us aristocracy, and we also have some really good privileges that we want to give out, like land rights, which goes aristocracy, and so that's going to be a big one. It's unfortunate because we really wanted to, in this law, pass lenient taxation. This does give minus tax efficiency, but we're not going to have a lot of prosperity, generally speaking, and so this maybe would have helped us out because prosperity is based on satisfaction. You have to have accepted pops, which we do, but also accept a religion is going to be important because we don't have, like, unlimited religious tolerance of heathens. In fact, it's quite bad. So that it would be good for us to be able to go lenient taxation somewhat in the near future. And so it's a... Well, let's take a little... We can peel off a few months and see if we can get it on Parliament. And to be fair... Oh, this is perfect. We just high roll an event. So we'll go for this. We'll go for this. And then we'll get our lenient taxation in here. We will not accidentally not do it through the Parliament. You want to do it through the Parliament. Otherwise, it's like 90 stab hit or something like this. Kind of a nasty misclick or mis-sequence. So let's go for the law change here. And we will go for ICTA, or however this is pronounced, and go for lenient taxation. So kind of rough that we're eating some tax efficiency malice, but we do have treasury rights, and so we'll still be 5% positive here, and so it'll still be okay enough for us, but importantly, now we will start pushing prosperity. We forget exactly... There we go. We could take a look at a lot of these locations, and we are, with lenient taxation, we're pushing this kind of okay, but that's where we have accepted pops, good religion. But look at this, 0.06. That'll take forever to get to 100, and in newly conquered areas, it's not going to be that high, and so we're more than doubling our trend on this, and so this is going to allow us to push development, because development is stagnant, because the thing that gives it, for the most part, is going to be prosperity, and so that is going to be a key and kind of important thing. We can maybe give out 1 or 2 estate privileges as well, because we are at 48% approval. That's decent enough that I think we can afford to. We can go for a little bit more Pluto trend, which is quite nice. We do want gold output just in a general sense. That is something that we're interested in. We don't really need more satisfaction off these guys just yet, and so I think we're going to go for the plutocratic trend unless we can think of something that is significantly better for ourselves here, which kind of can't. This is maybe one to consider sometime down the line. The plus estate satisfaction... Oh, no, wait. Minus... Never mind. I thought it was minus max tax for the ulama. So instead, we will go for this, I think, the plutocracy trend. We were just making sure that we had the one that gave flat development, but I guess it's already in there. Did we not see the development? So here's the flat development. I guess we just didn't see it there. So we'll go for the building rights as well, which is going to give us... just locked in a trend towards plutocracy. So we are really going to get there quite nicely. So already off to a pretty good start in terms of values, in terms of where we want to go and where we're already going. We do get a religious figure we're kind of interested in here. A little bit of stab investment, very nice in the opener, and some monthly research progress. Monthly research progress, it's a modifier that falls off quite a lot because you end up getting a lot of percentage research, but currently we don't have a lot, so that's going to be pretty valuable for us kind of in the opener here. Research is coming along quite nicely. We are starting to clear out some of these lack, let's say, of resources. We were building a little bit more masonry to allow these roads to pick up. We're just going to let the money pull up as this goes on. And we have a nobles regency. That is terrible. That is real bad, because we don't have an heir. Oh, do we have an heir? We have a crown prince. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Put all the number on red, because hopefully this guy, it's a little bit of a gamble. He's our only heir. I didn't even realize he'd been born. That's called bad parenting. And so hopefully this guy is alright in the few years. Mansa Musa generally dies pretty quick anyways, and he's a fine enough, gentleman to have in charge here. Hopefully this doesn't spike the disaster. This might spike the disaster. We do have 100 legitimacy though, and we get the legitimacy trend. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap this strengthened government slot onto stabilized country. Now we are kind of leaving these blank because we want our own people in charge, but to be honest, we're not going to have any people. So, or it's forever. It's like 15 years until we have anyone who's of the royal family who's going to be in there. So we're going to just put in some capable cabinet members to make things a little bit better. We are shuffling around this increased control, and so we are going to see some funky looking control back and forth, and that's going to be why, but this is giving us a very near the full value that we can get out of these places. In fact, speaking of value, let's maybe take a look at the gold here, because the price of wood hasn't collapsed yet. So we're going to just keep watching the lumber. The lumber is cheap for us to build, but we don't have a lot of laborers there. So instead we'll look to solve it like this and build a couple of these lumber mills. We are going to want them eventually. They're a little bit expensive, but we do want to get started on the gold sometime here in the near future. Just kidding, I don't think we want these in the capital. And so we won't put it in the capital, we'll put it off to the side a little bit, because the capital generally gets squeezed a little bit for max building size. So we have our first war. It should be pretty straightforward here against Guirico. We formulated first a spy network, and then got a CB, because everyone around us is not our religion. So we can get CBs from religious wars, which is fairly straightforward for us. So we're just going to deck them. Do have a couple of guys coming along with them, which is quite a bit, actually. So let's go for this religious war, and we will deck on them. We do have a bunch of subjects, though, so we should be in fine shape. We're going to raise all the levies. Courtesy of the additional control, we are actually going to have a pretty monstrous amount of levies for our pop size. We're just going to make sure that we assign a general instead of not assigning a general. Why can't we assign a general? Working in the cabinet, sure, that's fair enough, but not everyone is working the cabinet, my guy. And we hit the Age of Renaissance. Why actually can't we assign a general? They're not all working in the cabinet, dog. Lowborn. They're either lowborn or they're in the cabinet. Yikes, yikes, yikes. We can't get a good leader. So, coming over here, we have the Age of Renaissance hit. There are some instances, I think, where you would want to... The military, just generally speaking, is going to be short-term. We do kind of really value, though, tolerance of heretics and heathens, though. So this is intriguing. I generally really like admin ideas, but we are going to have really big tolerance issues. I think as like Delhi, the Ottomans, Mamluks in Mali, this is interesting. But a lot of this is going to be, kind of warfare stuff that's really oriented towards the early game. Levy combat ability, cavalry falls off later, so cavalry combat ability. Levy size, non-culture levy size, to be fair, that's kind of okay for us. Army tradition or Navy tradition, naval damage done. This is kind of okay stuff, but I really do think we're going to go admin. There's really just so much better stuff in admin, generally speaking, and so I think that we want to be going that. There's some like instances where we maybe would want to go Diplo, but we're not really going to need improved relations. It doesn't matter if everyone sides against us, gets mad at us, this type of stuff. And so to just quickly show off what we're adding to the tree, we're going to be adding max literacy, legislative ability, which decreases antagonism, expected cost of court, which is kind of our #1 expense, that's going to cheapen things up, bank interest kind of irrelevant, merc in a couple of places, we're not going to make very good use of it, but the proximity cost we are, especially because we have some of these modifiers already. Deus Vult will give us a better religious war CB, and this is like the only thing we're using, and so we are going to go administrative focus, and so we will do that, and we will start to be on our way over here with our leaderless army, because we don't believe in letting the lowborn lead them. We'd rather have the troops lead themselves. Certainly that makes more sense than someone lowborn leading the troops, to have nobody leading the troops. That way nobody's in charge. And as we win, we're going to take slaves, and as we take slaves, they're going to go to locations that have slave markets. And so some of these places are going to get really built up. And so because of that, we're actually going to delete the slave market, because that's not really where we want them going. We want them going to Bamako or Niani, which are the two locations that we have left. And so now every time we get any sort of this, we're going to have them coming in there. So we have 90k pops there, but we only have 10k in Bamako. Wait just a second here. These guys go to Niani, these guys go to Bamako, Niani, 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 and so we will gain some more population. It used to be way more pops that you would enslave each time, so it has come down a little bit, but there's still going to be a decent chunk of pops that are moving our way. So we went from 10k in just a few moments to a higher 10k. Or what was it before? Was it really 10k before? I don't think it was. Was it? Is it just not updated? Bueller? Alright, so we're going to go after that. We fully occupied them, and we're just going to figure out kind of a good resolution. I think we're going to subjugate this guy, and we're going to subjugate this guy, and maybe feed some of this guy to this guy, because all Mossy culture will be ideal for them having relatively stable empire, and so feeding them their own culture group is generally going to be preferred here. Alright, we subjugated one, and I think we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, because this guy might even be a subject of this guy, giving the coloration, and the thing is, okay, we're going to generate a lot of antagonism, but not only on these people, basically, which we're not concerned about them coalitioning at all. We're not trying to get alliances or anything, and so this is going to be unimportant for us. We also put in cabinet action for including Diplo Rep, and we're also going to max out our diplomatic spending, so we do get less antagonism, but it's not going to really be a big deal unless it's like someone in North Africa that is going to potentially, yikes, Mamluks, what's going on? Unless it's someone up there, we don't really care if they get involved, because we're just going to kind of subjugate all of this anyways in relatively short order, and so this is going to put us kind of in a little bit better shape. We are just going to be able to subjugate these guys in one go, and then we're just going to be able to separate piece out the third guy. So 3 subjugations all our way is very nice. This guy we can actually even vassalize and force convert him, which I think we're going to go for that. We can't put in all the gold, but we can put in a little bit of it. It's not going to really matter that much. We don't really need 3 gold. Okay, we don't need 3 gold. And so we're going to go for it there, and with that we will have subjugated our way into a big chunk of Africa here, just off the outset. We really don't need too much going on. We were already building up a spy network there. We're not going to need that. But we really don't need too much to get rein in control of most of the region. We do have them upset with us for now, but I think we're going to go for these guys next. The best resources are down here, so that's going to be nice for us as we continue on our way. We don't want these guys to push towards us too much. We're not going to let them get too big. We're just going to kind of keep expanding. Yikes on the income, though. Really not making a whole lot of money. Why is that? We were good about a good amount of commoners max tax. We actually are making enough to mint here just a slight bit, which is maybe a bad sign for us. I guess we are max cost of court and max dip spending here. We do want to rake this back, but we are over, I think, our limit. So we'll rake it back until we see someone become disloyal. So we're looking at the top bar here. We're looking for the Broken Heart. A shout out to the Broken Heart here. Are we really not going to see it? No shot that no one's disloyal at this kind of rate. What's going on here? Real? Can we really put the slider down more? I mean, we do have this 0.03 here, so we do want to be generating some amount of Diplo, so we'll put the slider up a little bit, but I guess that works out for us. We'll put this down, and so now we're kind of making a good chunk of money. We're going for the annexations on these guys, so we should have those in relatively short order, and we will, of course, not forget to disband this guy for forever, because that would be bad. So, Royal Decree was the privilege we were wanting to hold out for, but another one that would have been reasonable for us to hold out for is Plutocratic Ethos. Really kind of liking these a lot these days for the purposes of really kind of fixing our values at the start of the game. Crown Power is nice as well, one of the reasons why we will be going Royal Decree first, and we will not be trending towards centralization at all, so the reason for that is we need to move this guy back because we swapped him to Diplo Endeavors just for those peace deals, and then we'll put him back on this, and so we will have our trend towards centralization back, and alongside that, a very, very small trend towards plutocracy. So do have to get more of these in our upcoming parliament, ideally. So, taking a look through our laws, we don't super love any of our law passes. We kind of want to get off of this, but the thing is we can't get off of this without getting a trend towards aristocracy as well here, and we don't really have a good way of getting off of that, so it'd feel weird to go for central councils just to centralize faster, and then off of it to go plutocratic, something like this. We would want to get onto any religion, just in general, because we have so many heathens, and also no censorship we're already on, so that's kind of okay. So this time we won't go for just as much kind of clout as possible, or as much of the support as possible. Instead, we're going to go expand gravel road network with the idea of actually pushing it, because it will move us towards centralization by 10. So this will just accelerate the process if we can be successful in pushing this up a little bit. We do see serfdom support. We want to push serfdom anyways, so we'll click through that, and then we see swap policy. We don't want traditional distribution of power. We could peek behind this door, but I think that's basically our parliament over. We're just going to take the gravel road network and be happy with that. Now, that does give a discount on us going for roads, and we could use some more roads. So we're going to see if we have the prices collapse. We have them almost collapsed on everything, and so I think we're actually just going to peel off some roads. We're just going to take a look what our good resources are. We see that there's some iron up here. We wouldn't mind attaching the road there. We are annexing that spot right now. In fact, why don't we push all the way up here? That way they start getting development, and it'll be a little bit better once we get that land. We do see that we have that there. I think we'll push kind of to nearby spots. We don't see any premiums that we currently are not connected, but we are getting a discount on these roads, so we will go for the roads right now while they are discounted. And also, we can't really push things like gold because we don't have the pop promotions yet, although something we can do, and probably should be doing at least a decent amount, is villages are going to be very strong for us. We are going, that's not the right art, we are going to be using market villages here as well. If the price is low, it looks like it is, and we're going to want these all over. They kind of smooth things out. They have a bunch of, it's a Swiss Army knife type of thing where it can have a bunch of different outputs and a bunch of different inputs, and what this is going to be nice for is smoothing out our expansion of the rural stuff, and also we're just going to want it in the rural stuff eventually, because this will give us a decent chunk of money. So it's going to smooth it out because it's going to give an additional laborer pool. So let's go and build a couple of these as well in our gold locations. So I think we're going to take a crack at the right portion of the free tree here now in terms of our tech. We're going to come in here and we have some goodies. We're not going to go for the building costs right away. We're going to come through here. Max RGO size, excellent for the gold. Food production, not really the biggest deal, but we do want to get the founding city rights because we're going to be doing that relatively soon, and we want trade range. This is the real reason we're coming to this side, is we want the trade range there, and we want the trade range there because we want to be able to trade with Morocco when Morocco gets institutions. Now, they don't have institutions right now. Also, our first spy got bricked, so we didn't get to explore through here, but we do want to trade through this corridor with them once they get institutions, and also we just want to trade with them. We just want to trade with we want to trade with anyone. Anyone who will take our trade, we want to trade with them because, my oh my, these gold prices is low. We want the gold price much higher. To be fair, it's not even that low, but we want the gold price higher. This is going to make everything better for us, and so this is something that we are going to be looked to doing. We're also going to look to expand the gold, just generally speaking. As the labor fills up, we are going to pip the gold up a little bit as well. Bridges are going to be a bit of a mainstay for us. They do give a 5% proximity reduction, and we have a ton of rivers, so we're just going to be all over the place. When you build a road through a river, you gain the potential to build a bridge, and this is going to give us a nice little discount. If we take a look at the proximity map mode, we can see how much we're spending on like proximity per segment, and it's quite a bit right now. We see we're spending 20. We have some percentage reduction from land. It's 6% right now. Eventually it'll be 10%. We do have nomadic tendencies from our sub-Saharan African tech, so that's an additional 5% there. Development's giving a tiny little bit. It used to give equal to one development equals one cost reduction. Now it's 5 equals 1, and so significantly nerfed. But we also are going to eventually have a source that is going to be pretty good in terms of laws when we go itinerant court. We're not going to go itinerant court just yet, but if we take a look at our court systems, itinerant court is going to give us a proximity cost through land, so that's going to be another 20% for a total of 30% reduction, which is pretty solid. There's a few other things that are going to give us some flat reduction, and so all of that together is going to help us to kind of keep everything relatively high proximity. Our proximity looks pretty good right now, but these bridges are going to be good. We're going to be building them throughout the run, all over the place. Just kind of a refresher. This is our river map mode, so this represents for us a ton of proximity cost reduction. We do have issues going through specifically woods and forests in the south, but up here is clear. It's both flat and it's grassland, so it's going to be easy going, especially through the rivers in the north. So we should be in good shape proximity-wise, and kind of a little bit of a buff to Mali is the nerfing of development as it relates to proximity cost reduction, because they have terrible development. So when development gets worse, the people who have bad development don't suffer as much. So that is going to be something that is kind of nice for us. We still have bad development though. So we're consistently making over 20 ducats here, so we're going to start with our first colonization. The cost scales up, but not super fast, so it stays relatively flat, but this one only costs us 1 ducat because we're only going to be colonizing one location at a time. We're going to go out of the capital, and we are going to be going for Dan. Now, we do accept all the Dan pops. It used to be the case that you would just colonize instantly if you accepted all the pops, but this is not going to be the case. Instead, we'll have to bring the Mandinka people over, maybe have to get enough Sunni people over here, which it will be a little bit of a struggle if that is the case, because that's a lot of Sunnis, but eventually these pops will refeed back into our nation. We're going to check and see if we can build one of these. We cannot. We can build these missions next to our subjects, but we can't build them next to our territory. It seems to be the new rule here for that, and these are going to convert places to Sunni, so that's why we're getting a bunch of Sunni pops over here. So this is probably going to be the second area we colonize. In terms of the resources that we have here, not the best resources here, mainly going for it because it's cheap, and also because when we colonize this later, Capel, we will be able to colonize 3 locations at once from the outset. After we colonize these two, Dan and Sinufo, our next target will probably be Sulimana. It's got a ton of good resources, and it is on the way to our natural harbor, which is going to be quite nice. We do want to explore some of this up here and maybe colonize up here as well. I don't think there's a lot of pops here. If there's not a lot of pops, then that means we colonize relatively quickly, so maybe we go for this colonization actually as well. It is going to cost us a little bit more, so we're spending about 3 ducats, but we will be getting some colonizations out. We're kind of still waiting on Tlemcen to get enough spy network to spy over here to reveal this. That's going to be one of the better ways to reveal this, and incidentally, we'll be able to reveal Spain and then spy on Spain to reveal some of this over here, so it's maybe not so essential that we rush sailors down. Maybe we don't need sailors. Something we have an eye on for our plan, though, is going for Tlemcen. They have a bunch of claims, and if we subjugate them, we can use the claims to go after Tunis, this type of thing. And also, if they get an institution, which of course they don't have right now, but if they do get an institution, what we will be able to do is we will be able to spread the institutions to ourselves through our subject, and so this is maybe a plan for kind of sometime down the road in the near-ish future, just going for a subjugation on Tlemcen. So here comes the plague. Maybe. It tends not to spread that well to the tropics, and as I understand from a little bit of changes, it's not supposed to go through a sub-Saharan kind of territory that well, and so this is going to be our actual first time observing this. The question is, of course, will this penetrate into sub-Saharan Africa, or will it just kind of stop here in the Sahara, and this will be the final little push? In which case, the way we evaluate how many pops we have should just probably be a little bit different, because if we aren't going to get pushed by the plague, then we just are in a really good spot here. And it's looking like we're fine. We were building a hospital in Mali. Maybe we should stop? I guess we'll stop building the hospital. We'll refund that. We were preparing for if this kind of came through to have some sort of resistance, this type of thing, but it's looking unnecessary. It's not even not just traveling through the desert corridors. So these are all the desert corridors. There's one place that doesn't pass through a desert corridor, which is a non-settleable location that you could travel through, and that is right here. So if there was a place for it to break through, it would be through here, but we're seeing it just kind of get stopped here, where there's no progression here, and so that will leave us nice and safe, so we won't even have to do anything about dealing with that. We will accept Juluf asking for us to improve the relation. Kind of a little bit of a weird start, because Juluf didn't go for a rebellion on us, and we can ask people to improve our their cultural opinion of us. We will go for the new subject we just kind of rounded up, which is going to be the Akan people down here, because that is actually a really big pop group. The Akan people are, so there's a lot of people who are Akan. If we take a look here, there's 800,000, and so them liking us a little bit more will make acceptance of them a little bit better. Really kind of going slow on this annexation, though, suffering from our cultural influence relative to their tradition. I don't think that there's other people would be way easier to annex. It's probably the case they would be a little bit easier, but in terms of what we want one of these two guys. They're both Senike, so I guess maybe this guy would have been faster, because I think he has the same primary culture as us, and so to that end, it would have been easier to go after him, but, I mean, I guess we could go after both simultaneously. The thing is, it's going to be really slow. Nope, he's not our culture, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to use enforced culture on him. So, we're just in a spot where we're not going to really get a quick, you know, kind of culture or a quick integration by virtue of their culture being strong, and ours just not really having a lot of influence yet. The thing that we will build for influence, which we're not building quite yet because we don't have enough books, is going to be this library. We're working on that, though. We're starting to branch out. We're starting to push a couple other things. You can see we're pushing the books here. We're going to push a lot of stuff in the capital because it's not that limited by other things, and we're kind of getting to the point where, with our money, we probably will want to upgrade to some cities. We are kind of maybe going to wait for formal city rights here, because that will give us a little bit of a discount. It's not the craziest discount, but 10% is a lot on a pretty big expenditure, and we don't necessarily need to get the ball rolling like as fast as possible on that kind of front. So yeah, we'll pay for a little bit of development, I think. Actually, where's Bamako? Yeah, that's perfect. That is an urban location that we care about, so more than happy to have a little bit of extra dev there. In fact, it's got, yeah, quite a bit of dev for the entire region. Yeah, another Parliament, another bad role here. It wants us to go back onto noble mining operations. We don't want to do that, and so we click our Parliament. Unfortunately, we have enough to pass Gravel Road, and it's lucky that we rolled Gravel Road, but no more clicking will take place this Parliament, because we can't possibly get to 50 with just these guys, and we don't have a burger Parliament yet until we get 20% clout on the burgers, which, to be fair, we might get next Parliament, so that's something to look forward to. Over here in Tlemcen, it does look like we have a 40 stack, at least, on here, so we're going to see about using some of the covert actions. We're going to steal a map. Who needs a map? We do, and we want to steal a map of over here, but we don't know the name of the region. Is there a way for us to know the name of the region? It's going to be something West Africa. Let's find out where it is exactly. So we went out to Nation Select to see Western Sahara and Ghana, so I guess that's what we're looking for. Kind of not really the most forgiving UI from the perspective of this here, but we're going to come back onto our nation and look for Ghana / West Africa, and I don't think we saw Ghana. I don't think maybe we actually just can't explore this. That is a little bit unfortunate. We'll go for our Iberian West Coast then, because I do think that this is kind of in the right direction here, and maybe we just need something over here to be able to see this, and so we'll get a little bit more sight. Maybe we have to steal maps from someone else. Other than Tlemcen, really was hoping to get also enough support in here in order to get a CB on Tlemcen, because I think we gonna go for the centralization instead, but we would have loved to be able to put a CB on Tlemcen, because you can't declare a religious war on them because they are also Sunni, so hopefully they don't get eaten in the time period, but a little bit unfortunate. I think that we forgot to build something. We forgot to build a unit. Let's build a unit here. We want to build a unit, not because we really need the unit, but because it will give us a little bit more crown power. But I was just thinking, if we get enough manpower, maybe that's what we need to scout here. And so I think it's not within range, but let's try and get a little bit more manpower as well. And so we are going to build some buildings, which will allow us to recruit it, and which is very nice that we have our own unique barracks here. Lets us build some more units. We're going to go for one down there. Looks like we have a shortage of some things that will prevent us from building. We don't have enough weaponry. That's fair enough. We will add a weaponry to the queue here. It's a little bit expensive, but that's fine enough. We don't want to forget. And so we will be continuing on our way. We have... Well, we can't lose support, because otherwise we won't pass this, but we have to get really lucky for it to be even remotely reasonable for us to get another 40 support here to go for the CB. Nice little bit of an unlock for us is the cattle rearing pen. Livestock is a reasonably good industry. Getting 20% output's pretty nice. I don't think there's really much output in the tree, which makes the 20% output really valuable. We mentioned earlier the gold output, relatively speaking, gets diluted out because you get like plus 300% gold. But I don't think there's too much of this in the tree, so this stays actually being 20%. And so this is an interesting building. We definitely want to have them. And so this will unlock the locations that we will be able to build in Guinea. And so that is going to be nice for us. A little bit of unique content thrown our way. We also, incidentally, have a ton of livestock here in the north. Really pretty solid RGO. It feeds into tanneries. So our tanneries will always be really effective because we're going to have a ton of livestock. So the price of that is going to be really low. Tanneries or livestock and salt combined will feed in 8 food, which is pretty solid. Not that we need food because we have all this rice, which gives 10, but we also have a bunch of salt up here as well. So we are going to be pretty flush with the means of doing tanning, and so this is going to help us to keep our armies equipped and is going to be a useful input. I think we just go for the estate satisfaction here. Pretty kind of set up nicely with our estates regarding how much satisfaction we have. We're able to tax them kind of to the max quite comfortably, except for the ulama, but we don't really want to give them too many privileges, this type of thing. We're going to rake back the minting, but now we are also entering a phase where we are experiencing inflation, and so we'll want to keep an eye on this. We have to grow the rest of our other kind of non-gold economy for this to go away, and so this will be a feature of what's going on for probably the next 20 to 30 years for us. We also see that someone's disloyal, just a little bit disloyal. I think we'll handle this by just improving relations with them. Don't want to spend any extra on the slider. We are investing really heavily into our colonies right now, effectively in terms of proportion of our income. Kind of don't like spending more than 10% here, and we are currently spending about 10% of our net income, so that is, I guess, kind of where we want to be, but at the top end of where we want to be. Why is this? Why you not automatically slide back down, my guy? So this will be good. We'll also get to see what happens when we slot in our leader here. Just kidding, we can't slot him in. That's right, because he is still a boy. He is still a boy, and this is still a regent. How old is this gentleman here? He's 12, so a few more years. So we roll an interesting event here, which is Innovation Wave, which gives us Wave of Innovation. A little intuitive, and this gives us a monthly research progress and institution growth, but more importantly, 0.2 progress towards innovative. So even though we're almost all the way towards even on centralization, and this is a priority for us, we're going to say good news here. Now it's 0.53, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our cabinet action, or actor, and we are going to put him on innovative. That way, when you stack a whole bunch of it, it really helps you to push the stuff a lot more. We're going to be pushing towards 0 on the centralization anyways here, but now for the duration of this event we will be getting 0.7, and so hopefully we can get above 0.5 innovative, where we will start to get events and such like this. We are also almost done creating a spy network and CB on this guy in Borgu, which is going to be nice. These guys want to improve culture. We'll say hell yeah, brother. They certainly are our brother now, and we will also be probably looking for another person to go after. Maybe not. We have these 3 to go after, but really we are quite extended. It doesn't really matter though. we eventually want to subjugate everyone here, so maybe that's okay, but also, maybe we don't want to subjugate them, because if we don't subjugate them, we can take more slaves. We're not exactly super densely populated up here, and we are going to want to get some slaves up here, so we are going to want to redistribute some of the pops from here over to here, and if we subjugate them, we will kind of lose that opportunity, and so it's possible we just actually want to do, like, a bit of slave raiding, and then not annex them or subjugate them or this type of thing. That way we can, you know, manage this a little bit better, because just taking a look here, we actually do want a lot of pops in this upper region here, and we don't have a lot right now, so pulling them from here is certainly a reasonable strategy for us to be able to bring them over to here, where they can grow, and we can plant them like trees and bushes and shrubs, and that's, you know, the story of the bird and the bees. Our Mansa finally comes of age, and so we will be able to put him in charge of the army. I think we'll just march the army back. It looks like our subjects have this pretty well, you know, kind of handled, and so we are going to put this guy in. Before we do, though, we're going to take a look at canceling that. We're going to take a look at our crown power. It's 29%, just to show you the power of getting this 25% bonus from having your ruler as a general. We are going to march him back, but it is now going to be quite a bit more than 29%. It's going to be, on the new month, the power of a new month, 32%. So that's pretty nice. It's going to give us some more trade income. Eventually, trade will be a big chunk of our income. If we look at the modifiers here, we can see we're getting several, but the biggest one is going to be leading the charge. He is in command, but we're marching him back because we don't want him to get mixed up now that he's actually leading the army. Now, taking a look here, it does look like we can get a little bit of a choice here. We can either conduct a census. This helps with pop growth. Or we can go for funding the farming estates, which has the advantage of giving us more support, at least initially. So let's actually take a little bit of a look here, though. These guys, can we get these guys past 20% before this pops off? I don't think we can, just by giving them a couple privileges. There are there's 4 privileges we are interested in giving them, but I don't think we can give them enough power by just handing them out these privileges. I guess we'll take peel off a couple of them and see what this does to their power in a month's time, and then if it's like just one short, we'll kind of have a little bit of a crack at it. Really? We just gonna kill this guy because he disagrees? Fair enough. That's how we roll, I guess. And we will take another month off here and see what's... Hey, there's that 20%. Let's go, baby. So with that, we will be able to swap our parliament. We have a bunch of stab stored up, really trying to make sure we stay on top of having high stab so that we avoid our issue. And we will go a state parliament because this gives us burghers in the parliament. So this is going to help out, especially because burghers' agendas are helping to push stuff like plutocracy. So this is going to be valuable for us. And now we will call the parliament and we will go for, I think, fund farming estates, and we will see what we can cook up here. Actually, we don't want too much. We don't really care about passing the fund farming states, and because we don't really care about passing whatever it is, we just need 20% support to be able to go after Tlemcen. Let's just conduct a census. Let's get ourselves some pop growth, and we do want land focus, so we'll take we'll peel that off there, and then we will address the sound toll complaints, so we get to the 50% we kind of wanted. Yeah, and we get to peek behind and see if there's anything we specifically want. We are currently pushing innovative, so we'll click this. Even though we're not going to get to another 50 spot, we just want to get a little bit further. And then favor the wealthy is something we kind of want, but we have this problem right now. We have that problem right now. And we can just change to favor the wealthy some later time, just by doing other stuff, and so I think that we'll sit that one out for now. We could maybe push innovative here. We actually don't care about artist salary. Let's actually give this up here in order to make that guy a little bit happier, and also going to help for that innovative push. We're still pushing 0.76, so gaining a lot of progress towards innovative, now over a 0.55 on it, so that is going to be nice. We also discovered Granada. I realized that Tlemcen might not actually have sight of this over here, and so maybe they're not the person to go after. So we are going to ask for Causes Valley, and we're going to ask for it on Tlemcen here. We're going to go for here, and so that will be our parliament. And then this guy, I think we're just going to subjugate him. I think this is going to be fairly straightforward. He is not our religion, so we don't really have to worry about this stuff. We're not going to even shuffle around this stuff to make this work out. We're not trying to ally anyone. They will decay, and I think we're just slowing down after this guy anyways, because this kind of cuts off people from expanding over to the left. because we want to probably go after more slaves after we have integrated some of these guys as subjects. We cannot exceed the... oh, I guess. Just kidding. We didn't mean it. We didn't want those 10 ducats. No buckets of ducats for us. And so we'll go after that, and we'll disband our levies as we can. So that's going to be quite nice. We'll wait a little bit before declaring this war, but we'll do it pretty soon here. So, not sure if it was us subjugating Tlemcen that popped this, or us having enough manpower to do an expedition, but now we can see a little bit more in terms of the pseudo-fog, which we can actually explore. So I think we're interested in exploring out of here. It's going to be a land exploration, so it will use manpower instead of sailors. It also could be courtesy of the fact that, yeah, I think it's actually that this colony is progressing, so that's going to be useful for us. The thing that makes you go fast is going to be the military stat. We could send this guy too. This guy's a little bit better overall. Let's send this, and we will be discovering this here, and hopefully maybe that allows us to trade through that kind of corridor with them. We do have a bit of pain as it relates to actually making use of this, and so looking like we're also having difficulties just kind of the auto queue for keeping that market going, because that's plenty profitable. Why don't you just stick with it, my guy? Maybe it's canceling because it is getting too big or something like this, and then it's like, oh, you fed us way too much, the price collapses, and then it cancels the route rather than just decreasing the route, something like this. So a little bit of fiddliness, but really once we can dump a bunch of gold into Morocco, then we'll be kind of swimming in it, and so this will be really nice, but we just don't have the range right now, which is kind of what we were trying to demonstrate here. Can't trade into Morocco, need a bit more trade range, or we could create another market. We could like create a market up here, and then that market would probably be able to trade with them, but as it stands right now, that is one of our very significant disadvantages. With these guys subjugated though, we're hoping to experiment a little with it. We haven't done it too much, where we're just going to use them to spread institutions, so we don't necessarily need to get the trade in this age or in kind of the near-ish future for ourselves. Alright, this is a little bit of a big moment. I can't remember if this is enough for us to reach up into Morocco. I don't think that it is, but we can at least try our chances. Nope, nope, nope. Can't reach that market. So the thing is we have excellent resources, but really poor access to markets. So there's this big kind of lull period where you're kind of getting started. You're only making like 8 ducats, and really with the type of resources you have, you should be making like 50 to 100, but we just lack the ability to ship them anywhere nice. We're spying on Morocco, hopefully going to be able to... I think we're going to try and discover most of Iberia here, and that will be nice for us, and we're going to definitely take the prestige loss over the legitimacy loss. The legitimacy is causing a bit of an expense because as we have negative legitimacy, that makes the slider cost, or most of the slider cost, some of which just kind of stays away, kick in. We can even smooth this expense out just by decreasing our slider cost and letting a lot of our regen that we're getting from other sources, like the nobles of the accepted culture, the tech that we got early on in public harem, letting these kind of drive up a lot of the legitimacy. I think this overall decreases our expenditure, so maybe we do that and have a little bit more of a smooth income and just have kind of slower legitimacy gain. Maybe it's kind of a wash overall though. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's kind of a wash overall. Yeah, it's a wash overall, so in which case you'd rather be at 100 legitimacy instead of lower. But on the flip side, the plus legitimacy events are better when you're at 95, so maybe we actually want to run something a little bit like this with the idea that we're at 96, 95 a little bit more often, and we can pip some events that give us some legitimacy and actually get some value out of those boys. So it's time to go for some more techs. We did get the additional trade range. It's not enough to reach the Morocco market, so we're going to go for some Diplo Annex cost, and I think actually we're going to go for this one first. And what we're going to do with this is we are going to go for the expected cost to court, decrease our costs a little bit, and the proximity cost, and then once we're done with that, we'll grab this. And so this will decrease the annexation cost on our guy, and we will be pretty close to annexing them by the time this goes through, so that'll be nice. And then we'll go for the max literacy on nobles, not because we want it, but because we want to get after this legitimacy and the minus expected cost of court. So this is going to really decrease our major expense here. This fluctuates quite a lot based on whether or not we have 100 legitimacy, because the cost that we are paying on the cost of court, right? And so when we get more legitimacy trend and we get more cost of court, this is going to help out. We currently are getting from this 0.42, and so if we get a little bit more, we will have to not pay for quite as much if we get a little bit more legitimacy. So that's kind of the idea behind this. Really kind of a good scrum here, and a lot of this over here is warfare stuff that we aren't going to really be able to utilize or is going to be that good for us. Hey, there is some livestock output bonus, courtesy of this being special for us, West African, so that is a little bit a nice thing for us. I suppose that we would want Deus Vault, the religious discount, so we'll go for that as well. We did just pick up the additional trade range, and we also got the city size, or the decrease cost on cities. We did urbanize a couple locations. They're going to be really slow going though, only 10k pops, but we put a slave center in there, so when we do engage in some wars, it'll pull a whole ton of slaves into these locations. But really, we don't have that many high pop locations. I think down here we probably should have settled instead, but this will be our next town that we make, mainly because it has a lot of pops. So this will be fairly good, and it's a reasonable enough place for us to settle. It's on a sturdy grain, not that good at RGO, so that is going to be good. We're mainly just building whatever's kind of the most profitable. In the long term, we're going to push like jewelry, ideally, because we have an advantage in pushing this. It only exports, or it exports for a cheaper price. Can we get the jewelry good itself? It exports for a half the trade capacity cost, and we have a production efficiency bonus in this. Actually, 2 production efficiency. We're going to have a bonus here in some locations because we actually do produce ivory, but we do have here, we have golden manding, and so we're going to end up getting a little bit of a bonus, which is going to allow us to specialize, and we're going to have it in several areas. So just kind of taking a look here, we have this province, we have this province, we have this province, although that province isn't so big, and then we have provinces down here, so we're gonna have a lot of places that can produce jewelry pretty well. You can see here, this isn't even halfway annexed, so we're not worried about, you know, not getting full value out of our decreased cost of annexation. We're going to get minus 20% cost, and we're going to get that before this guy is anywhere near 80% annexation. So I think we're kind of going into a phase of the game that's going to be relatively quiet. You know, we might fight these guys just for slaves only, rather than subjugating them, this type of thing, in order to pull pops over. I don't think we want to do that with like these guys, because they're not that high pop, but this guy's pretty high pop, so we can fight him for slaves, and we can fight stuff like Benin for slaves, and especially anyone who's overpopulated. Looks like that's the not integrated area, but Nupe is going to be fine to fight for slaves. Fighting in here for slaves also going to make sense, just to pull them back to these really underpopulated locations, and then we'll start setting some of these slaves free. You could see that this was a really underpopulated place too. If we look how many pops are here, 15k or 17k of them are slaves, so that's really where a lot of our pop is coming from. But you know, our increased max levels that we get on buildings as a result of, you know, having population. This doesn't care whether they're slaves or not, and so this really will allow us to push high levels of buildings around and near the capital, which is one of the reasons why this is kind of the heuristic we're using. We're trying to get in close than necessarily, or that's our initial thought, than trying to push the higher pop place, but we should have just pushed this higher pop place. These will make for fine cities down here, especially, you know, actually we'll probably end up towning at the very least all of these. Maybe we leave one livestock kind of open so that we can produce food out of it, but with them on a river and control veins going through here, it's probably just better to city them. Not entirely sure, but we'll be on our way and kind of just continuing with things. Maybe we want to decrease or increase relations with these guys. I think we'll just sit tight for now and just kind of keep chilling. We are exploring a little bit. To be fair, we actually have exploration cost that's significant as well, now that we started exploring that. So we're making actually a little bit more money than it looks like, because we're probably colonizing and exploring a tad early, but maybe we just need this to get to like where we're going here. So we are maybe going to see exactly how the colonization mechanics work here, because we have fully converted this place to Sunniism for the most part, using our mission, which we have to build adjacent to one of our subjects, of which Guerco is one of them. So hopefully now we can just colonize this and get through really quick. We're going to colonize out of this location where we actually have a good chunk of pops, and hopefully a couple of these autocomplete, and then we just have 2 more going. This is adding a pretty substantive expense here, and it's not going to work like that. We do get 5% immediately out of Budendil, but this place, I'm not sure I understand exactly what's going on here, because this place is entirely our primary culture. So in theory, shouldn't we just flip it immediately? I think this is how it worked before, and now I'm not entirely sure if we need accepted culture plus accepted religion, this type of thing, in order to flip the colony, in which case this place has to fill with a bunch of Sunni pops, but they're coming from a place where they're not even all Sunni. So actually they're not even mostly Sunni, so maybe that presents a problem for us, because here we definitely have enough pops that are Sunni, they're just not Mandinka, and here we have Mandinka, but they're not Sunni. So a little bit of a curious one. We are making progress over here in Dan. We're about a quarter of the way through this first location, and they have to kind of leapfrog down, and then we're kind of making decent progress up here, where we have quite a bit of pops. It doesn't require a lot of pops for us to colonize these. We will take knowledge as power, although maybe that's a mistake, because we might end up getting bricked on research for some period of time. We are also expanding out a lot of our masonry, this type of stuff. We are having trouble keeping the collapsed prices, and we are, for the most part, expanding out pretty aggressively. Our estates are really also adding a whole bunch of stuff, and the burghers are almost exclusively building useful stuff. And the reason why is how useful the stuff they build scales with their with their wealth level, with their satisfaction, and they are super satisfied. We would love to get a little bit more max tax on them, and I think that next law time we get, we will maybe go for getting off of this, because it gives us trend towards decentralization. Kind of want to get rid of that. This will decrease our agenda impact, but now we have the burghers in our parliament, so we don't really need the agenda impact, and we will kind of favor the wealthy, or favor the ruler might be what we go for. That way we get the all max tax. That way we can get max tax onto our peasants. The thing here, though, this gives us plutocracy, so a little bit of a tough decision. Overall, generally speaking, agenda for burghers is a little bit better. We could even go agenda for common people, but we don't want the free subject trend. But taking a look here at how much we're actually getting a good chunk from burghers. So okay, we'll probably go favor the wealthy in our next parliament. Have a little flavor rebellion here in Jaluf going on in the background as we get our next parliament. As advertised, we did want to swap our distribution of power, so we'll go for that law change here, or not our distribution of power, I believe it's called something, oh no, it is distribution of power. We'll go for favor the wealthy here, which is going to give us quite a bit more trend towards plutocracy, and that's going to be nice. We are also trending towards centralization. Things are coming along quite nicely. We're getting crown power and proximity costs from that. That is going to be spectacular for us. We will remember to click the button instead of not click the button, and this is going to be a nice one, because this is going to give us a little bit more movement towards land. With that movement towards land, things will also get more proximity costs, so eventually we will have 20% proximity cost reduction from both land and centralization being maxed out, and as we've kind of mentioned before, so this is going to be nice for us. We're also enslaving some pops over here. Kind of mixed feelings, because we do want some pops on the coast, but there's quite a lot of pops on the coast, and they are coming into these new cities that we've made in the form of slaves here. We can see that this is the main idea behind building the slave centers. Rather than us actually trying to actively enslave these pops, we're trying to get these locations up to higher levels, so that kind of in the near-ish future we can upgrade them to cities, something like this, especially because they no longer require the marble like they used to. So that's going to be quite nice, because we actually don't have marble, which is one of the reasons why some of these government buildings we haven't built, because we don't have a way of sourcing marble at this point in time, so it is impossible for us to build something like this, because we have no marble. We're losing our marbles over the lack of marbles, and the fact that we just can't, trade with, everything would be fixed if we could trade with this gentleman, but we can't, so big sad. So we get our first little bit of colonial completion. Leaves me a little bit bemused as to what exactly the requirement is. I do believe it scales with a power projection though. So we don't necessarily have a ton of power projection. We got 7.7, and so maybe that's a function or kind of editing or altering what exactly it is we need here. We do have 46% Sunni, and we have 28% our primary culture, but now this is our land, and what we're going to probably see here is kind of a little bit of an exodus, because the migration attraction is only 19, and so it's very, very likely that they are going to, as we see this here, move somewhere else. We can see them coming over here where the migration attraction is 1.33, so we're not actually losing the pops when we do this colonization here. In fact, we're getting a whole ton of all these pops. There's an enormous amount of pops here, and so while we do start off with like 400k, we're going to be in good shape. You can see, is that uptick? No, that's us taking slaves. I was going to say, is that uptick like us getting this? But this is 43,000. And so we have a kind of a low growth rate, but that's because we have so many pops leaving. But then when we get this kind of coming back in, actually that is this. No, that's not it alone. That is but a 10% increase in our pop, basically. And now it's just going to funnel back in. It's going to funnel back into all these low pop areas that are desperate for more population in order to kind of keep the colonization going. We probably want to do something a little bit different in regards to... Wow, we lose so much waste. In regards to setting some of these slaves free, and maybe we want to accept some of the pops and like this type of thing. We have 16,000 here. We have 24,000 here. The thing we could do is we could accept a con pops, and that'll free them all, but I think that, well... It's a really big pop group. We know that we probably want to accept it, and I think that we have enough pops to accept it. What are we doing in this menu? And so this is maybe something we could do. Let's add them as tolerated, at least for now, which will allow us to keep them enslaved. And we don't have quite enough prestige to go for this, but this is kind of on our radar in terms of what we will maybe go for, and this will free all these guys. Or we could find an excuse to go to war with these guys, like make them disloyal, and then just only raid them for the slaves in order to move pops over, because they do have a lot of pops here, and so maybe that's reasonable to do before accepting their pops and freeing all the slaves here. Alright, so we probably waited a little bit too long for this. We have pushed our centralization up. This helps our crown power be high, which dilutes the power of all the estates, and we have diminished very significantly our aristocracy. Incidentally, we actually have a really nice push towards plutocracy here, 0.46, but we have hit the point where we can revoke the bad thing. The bad thing that gives us minus max control. Ew. Now, this will give us a little bit less serfdom trend, so let's check that out. We still do have some serfdom trend. We're kind of interested in trying to push it, but it might just be too expensive for us to push in terms of the concessions we have to make. But we are going to yoink this one, and we are going to lose 60 stab. So we go into negative stab off the back of this. I think we will give them a consolation prize, something like land rights, actually, but I think we'd rather push our thing first, though. I think we do want primacy of the nobility at some point in time, and there really isn't kind of that good a thing for us to really give them, so let's give them primacy of the nobility. This will crank their power up a little bit, it'll make them happy again, and so this will be good for us. A little bit of negative stab, but we will be coming on up. To be fair, we don't want to get this huge negative stab, because we do want to avoid the disaster, but that's going to be really, really nice for us. I guess, in theory, we should have waited until after our debate, or our parliament here. Looks like we don't have a suggestion from the burghers. Sponsor a noble cabinet is going to be not what we want, because this aristocracy thing, I believe this is because we have a cabinet member that is a noble. Yeah, we do have a cabinet member that is a noble. One of the things we've been trying to do is keep a burgher cabinet member, or keep a spot open for one, but we don't have one right now, because we want to roll that event for plutocracy. That's the easiest way to push plutocracy, and so I think that we're just going to do conduct a census here. A little bit of pop growth. I guess let's maybe read it, because, or you can take my word for it. 0.5% pop growth. It's kind of doubling our pop growth for 6 months. Not really the most insane thing, not entirely weak either. I think we don't want to piss off the nobles too much. Going after the burgher mansions is a little bit rough. We're going to peek behind a couple of these and see if we can get a 50%. I think that we have a nice little We don't want to push traditional ideas. See, this is the point where we have 92 towards innovative, so we don't want to lose out on this. So as you get more and more values set up, it makes it harder and harder for you to click buttons on your parliament. So this is a little bit of an issue, because I think that, actually, we might just have to stop here and just not get the 50%. I don't think we have two things in here for going for traditional economy. I don't think we have enough in the tank. I mean, we could give a privilege to the nobles and then be able to get it through the nobles here, but I think we just have a brick parliament here. Just didn't roll well enough, or actually didn't read well enough. Skill issue, because we don't want to push traditionalists. We don't want to lose out on our 92 innovative, so I think that's the parliament for us. We pip the thing. We pip the thing with just a little bit of extra trade range, about 5% from our maritime law, on top of the 20% and 10% we got from tech, and now, we can reach the FOSS market, which is spectacular. Now, for this, important to emphasize, or just kind of show here, no institutions here, so not really developing anything. A little bit starting to show up in Algeria, and a little bit starting to show up in Tunis. We have a 40% here, so Tunis is actually letting the banking flow, and so they are probably going to be someone we have an eye on in terms of making sure we get this institution. But right now, we're very happy to be doing trade with Morocco, because now we can actually make money. We can just export a whole ton of gold. This is going to be the plan. We just pipped this here, so expecting to see some of this reorganize as we try and, in fact, we can reorganize some of it ourselves as we try and make sure that we are making money from the gold. Now, to be fair, they do have gold themselves, but not anywhere near as much as we do, so we can should be able to dump gold into their market very, very profitably. That should probably be our most profitable route. Where did our route go? Brother. My guy. What is going on here? I guess we'll... Oh, it's to FOSS. It had it. I just deleted it. There we go. That's what we wanted. I need FOSS, and this should go in pretty nicely here, making a good amount of money, and we see now a lot of trade between us and FOSS. Things being a little bit funny, but we see these trade routes to FOSS. We're exporting our jewelry here to them as well, and so now trade is going to become a lot more valuable to us because we can actually stymie the prices of things. We're expecting to see the prices of things go up, and so we're going to start pushing trade quite a bit more, and we're going to plop a whole bunch of these down if we have. Now, we don't have any potentials. I didn't think that we did, but we will also add a bit in of these trade centers here. Not in the capital, though, because we do want to save our building slots, but this will be good for us. And one day, we'll have some new lands to be going after, you know, when we eventually annex this. And there's quite a few things in here where we do actually want to upgrade these cities, and so that'll be good for us. We're coming up on... Do we get a nice little jump by virtue of getting the cheaper? Nah, this is what it is. But also, we were paying minus or getting minus 20, minus 50%. Now we're only getting minus 26%. I don't know why this doesn't want to lock, which is going to be nice for us, courtesy of us pushing these libraries, which give us a little bit of culture. And this little bit of culture is making it easier for us to integrate people, the cultural influence here. So things are starting to kind of change up a little bit and be pretty good. And we do have a CB on Tunis. So at some point in time, if we are interested in it, because we have claims from Tlemcen, who is our subject, we can go after them just for the purposes of getting the institution, which is probably what we end up doing once they actually get some progress here. And we could even just take Tunis itself and then release it as a subject, and then use that subject to push towards us. Or we could wait and see how things develop, and maybe Tlemcen will be able to push the institutions towards us. We still have a little bit more time before we get bricked on our research. We still have a lot of useful text to grab, and so this is kind of the thing, is we don't want to hit a point where we have nothing useful left to research, but we're pretty far away from that here. So we finally get our annexation through here, which is going to feel quite nice. I think we're going to be starting another annexation straight away on Bambuk, which has a good chunk of gold for us to go after. We could maybe go after these guys instead. These guys have a better, like, industrial base. Do we really need more gold? Is this really the world we're living in here, where we need to have more gold? Looks like my hotkeys are messed up for whatever reason. But coming in here, if we take a look at gold, we will see that we just have gobs and gobs of it. And I'm not sure exactly how much more we can export here, but we can with more trade capacity, so which is something we're going to push. We also want to push towards the coast, but we keep trying to do a little bit of a sneaky on Morocco. They keep finding our spy, but we're trying to discover this type of stuff just by spying on them. And so I think that we're going to eventually make a breakthrough there, so we don't necessarily need to push sailors as fast as possible, which is kind of the original idea from getting to the coast as quickly as possible. And it's not the case that we really want to build up any sort of big cities over here. I think that we are more likely to want big cities over here, but the thing is we're never going to get that much control back there. I don't think we have that much proximity push. This is our current proximity situation, and we can like start to build over in this direction, I think. This is, like, really tough. I do think we want to annex one of them. I guess we'll just annex these guys because they're smaller, and maybe that will be a good way of playing. And also, they should be a little bit faster than the last guy. Yeah, we see just -6% because the last guy was the same culture, and so by going after him like that, it is a little faster. We already accepted that culture, so they're already all cored up for us, and we have to, like, take a little bit of a look here and decide, hey, where is it that we want to create cities here? So this is the new kind of line here. We don't really rate horses that high. They're relatively cheap. We have a few sources of them, if you could see, and we're really not going to use them that much. Our pops don't eat them that much, so this is almost certainly going to be something we want to city over. We're going to want to make flatland grasslands into cities because these will have more dev, and have higher dev is generally better for cities. So this is kind of the region we're looking in, and then we're also looking at resources, looking to city over relatively poor resources. So another thing we also care about is this. So we do want to create kind of a super highway up this way, and we do see that we really are going to need a certain ones of these. Like this location we're going to need citied. It's sturdy grains, which isn't very good, so let's go after that. And then we are going to need to either this or this, I think. Wheat actually, honestly, isn't that great, considering for us, we have a ton of cows, and cows are 8 food as well, and so it's not like we need the 8 food on the wheat. We also have rice, and so this is probably going to be one of the weaker resources. We could also check pops, and we could see, yikes, pops are just relatively low here. So maybe we just make a couple of towns here. This one is going to be nice because it's inside the same place as the wool, and by being inside the same place as the wool, we can make textiles in here. This place, by being in the same place as the iron, can make some tools and this type of stuff here a little bit more efficiently. And then the legumes are going to be up here, and they're going to be really good at making leather if we decide to city over them or town over them. I just don't think we want a slave center there, and it's going to take forever for it to grow, and you grow, sorry, this is the river map mode. You grow faster if you have lower pop, or sorry, not lower pop, if you have, well, we're sparse, so actually, we will hit cap faster, but you have more growth if you're rural. So we haven't quite experienced enough growth I think, to justify upgrading here yet, and so that's a little bit of a bummer. We do have this stuff over here as well that we will eventually want to upgrade. I don't think there's a lot of pops here. We could pull slaves here. Incidentally, actually, if we just upgrade the RGOs, this will pull slaves here from the places that are really well populated. So we do want sand a little bit to make roads cheap, to keep them cheap, and I think we do want cotton as well. It's an input, even if it doesn't have a lot of market access, so we won't get very much tax base from it. We're kind of fine moving pops over here because we have a ton of slaves. There's even a slave map mode. We don't have it set to a hotkey, but if we open it up, you can see where all the slaves are and how many. We see we have like 20,000, this type of thing. They will get shuffled around as needed if there are a bunch of like vacancies and this type of thing. So even though we only have like 10k pops here, and it looks like, hey, you could just barely fill the RGOs, we could do better because we can move slaves by virtue of just building more there. So this is one of the reasons why slaves are pretty good as well. Just let's maybe take a look at the pop map mode in general, kind of what we have going on. These guys would be a lot more pops if we annex them. I still think we're going to go for this first though. So pretty big integration for us. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to recruit a couple of horsemen up. We are toying with the idea of going after Tunis. we just definitely want to make sure that they actually get the institution first, because we don't want to somehow brick their ability to get the institution, so it's not in the near future. But once they have banking, it might be a little bit of a go time for us. So it is incredibly nice that we can build these caravans or these caravan stops in all these locations, getting +1 trade capacity. That's going to be maybe plus another like 30% trade capacity. I don't know why we started... Oh, that's not even ours. That is someone else's. But this is going to give us another maybe +12 trade capacity, almost doubling it. We're going to be able to get a lot more kind of profitable trades in. We have a lot of these over a value of 1, which is kind of an important-ish breakpoint. And I think that we're going to maybe try and push the jewelry a little bit more. What we need is more people to start trading with the FOSS market and bringing the gold from the FOSS market over. Or why is the FOSS market not in a positive? That's crazy that they can't get into a positive. See, we want the gold to go from FOSS out into Europe, but it's not... I guess we just have to push more gold. I guess we just need more gold. This is Mali problems. Am I right? So this is a play pattern we probably should have just generally been engaging in more. It just feels a little bit mean, but seizing territory of someone you're not going to annex anytime soon just generally seems like a good strategy, because it does start out cored, or integrated rather, so it's just kind of free. In this case, we already accept those pops, so we just get to get it in, and then we get to expand not only the cotton RGO out, which will just kind of max out that level, but now that the cotton RGO is there, it is going to be applied a production efficiency bonus by virtue of us having cotton there in our kind of nation. So that's going to be nice on that front. We also grabbed the lumber here because we wanted to expand that out. We will also lead all roads back to Niani, which we are expanding in all these locations here, and so this will be nice. I'm surprised we didn't have a road there already. And then also, just generally speaking, we're trying to push the trade quite a bit more. You can see our income is quite a bit higher. A big part of that is the fact that we are now trading with FOSS, because this pushes up the price of the gold. And if the gold price goes up, man oh man, this tremendously increases our income. Look at also the source of the taxes. We're getting quite a bit from the commoners here. In 54, a lot of this is in rural locations. If we, you know, kind of take a look at the tax base here, that's not tax base. That's not tax base. Is this one tax base? There we go. So you can see most of our tax base is actually in these gold locations. This is gold location, gold location, gold location. So that is going to be a big source of it for us. And we're also not fully taxing them, so we'll have to maybe have a little bit of a think. We do have some centralization to give up, so we could give up a privilege to the to the commoners here, which is kind of something we're into, something like this. The problem is we already have something else that we want to go for. We could give up hunting permits. That would maybe be reasonable. Maybe this is the most reasonable. We could also give up something like means of production. To be fair, I think we're actually trending towards capital economy when we don't want to be. We want to stay traditional economy, actually, because we want the raw material output, the pop capacity, the food production. So actually, I think what we're going to do is we're going to slot in this. Kind of one of the, or the point we were going to make, we're going to lament that we have this, but the point that we were going to make here is that we don't want to start progressing towards free subjects, so we can't give that out, and we don't want to start progressing towards decentralization, and we know that we want to swap onto itinerant court, and I don't think we're on it just quite yet. If we look at our court customs, we're on the royal harem, and we want to swap onto this in kind of an opportune time, and so this will move us towards decentralization. So we have to make sure we have a positive trend so we don't lose the centralization progress we gave, and so we got to kind of do it like this. I do think we can give out, though, hunting permits, because this is just a half step. So I think hunting permits will be good for us as well, trying to ensure that the satisfaction on the peasants is high enough that we can always be max taxing. And the reason why our max tax went up is because if we hover here, we can see the max tax, where it's coming from, but the place it's probably coming from here is the serfdom is a little bit higher than it was before, so we're getting 5% max tax from the serfdom. So that's going to serve us well, especially in taxing these types of locations, because half the tax here, it's going to the peasants, so that's nice. So we hit this rather nice event with some unique flavor. Our borders are often perilous, and many merchants across the domain have fallen victim to illicit banditry and crime. Is there any other type of banditry and crime? Are we clear? It is in fact illicit. Despite our best efforts, we have failed to establish the rule of law and bring the borderlands closer to our court in Niani. Thus, many influential members of the Umara have voiced their concerns and brought forth their ideas, delegating some power to them, particularly around the northern and southern border. We can choose to grant this office, which is unique. We will unlock it. This is an estate privilege. It would be kind of nice to have, except for we're not looking to get some aristocracy trend, right? Trade efficiency is actually kind of nice. Nice that roads are cheaper. It's maybe in the abstract kind of an okay, good privilege one we want to have in. We're still getting satisfaction. And then we have this one too. Market attraction, monthly ruble growth. But again, this progress towards aristocracy, we can cram both of them, and you're starting to maybe notice a trend here, a little bit of a pump towards aristocracy and a pump towards centralization. Neither of these we want. Well, what happens when we refuse these? Okay, we do take a 7 stab hit, but we get 20 towards centralization and 20 towards plutocracy, which is basically exactly what we're in the market for. So we will click that, and then we will be really in very good shape for our values, where we will be getting centralization of 67, and also we will be getting plutocracy of 59. So we will need to even change up our cabinet action. We are done trying to progress towards plutocracy. With that said, we actually have so much trend towards plutocracy, we maybe could have even afforded to give. Maybe we wanted those privileges. So we will move our cabinet action on to pushing humanist now, because we can't push any more towards plutocracy. We hit the max, and 27 is actually a pretty good buffer considering we were holding back some things. When we take a closer look at laws, we'll probably see some of them, but one that we were holding back on, which is incredibly good, is land rights, which gives 5% tax efficiency and a little bit of satisfaction. So this is going to be quite nice. This just juices up your tax by a good amount. Just applying 5%, and it doesn't take money away from the estates. You can that it's not taking money away from the estates is maybe significant to point out, because our burghers are actually building a bunch of useful stuff. They're building roads, they're building sheep's pens. All of this is pretty solid. It's maybe not the first choice that we make, but it also kind of fills in the gaps when we are ourselves making errors. We also had an important breakpoint that we just noticed here. We finally have a big enough non-minting economy that we are starting to get the minting to come down. We've had it minimized for forever. It's the fact that we have a ton of gold that's causing the issue here, and this is going to be nice for us because we will be able to get the cost of everything back down. So that is also an exciting development. Things are really kind of coming along here. We still do have a big chunk of tech tree as buffer before we start having research that gets bricked. We do have these old techs. In fact, we want to make sure that we research these in this stage, so we're just going to put these at the end of the queue so we don't forget here. Get all of those researched up because we do have a bonus towards researching them at this juncture. You know, excellent timing here, getting balanced the budget. For a while I was thinking that the way you pop this, because you have to satisfy conditions to roll different parliament debates, and for a while I thought it was just having inflation allows you to pop this, but I think that it might be having inflation and having that inflation currently going down might be the way that you pop this. This is a really strong debate because it gives you a ton of free money effectively. By giving you a ton of minus monthly inflation, this allows you to just max out your minting. But in our case, we're just going to use it to decrease what we have going on in terms of our inflation. So this is going to be very valuable for us for our, you know, parliament here. But we'll kind of skip through this stuff. It's just going to be us clicking some buttons. So we get our first colony finishing up in here. We do start constructing a bailiff, which is going to give us a little bit of proximity. We might urbanize some of this along the coast just for the purposes of getting some urban buildings there so that we can build both marketplaces. So we just have trade capacity. Just generally speaking, that'd be good. It's not like we have a lot of pops there. But also, the pops don't really grow that well because this is desert. And we grow a bit extra because rural capacity, but we also grow quite a bit because of having excess land, available free land. But the available free land, the base value, you could see that the population capacity is like 20,000, because desert vegetation just gives 10,000 base, and we're getting 7,000 base from the equator. We would get another 20,000 base if we create this into something urban. So there's a pretty soon point where once we pass a population threshold, we'll be getting more population growth by urbanizing it rather than keeping it rural. And so these will serve as like towns that are meaningfully like useful to be kept as towns, especially because the food or the fish RGO is kind of trash. And so upgrading these to towns will make a lot of sense for us. Also, we'll just be able to build more of these town buildings. Argon themselves might be at that threshold already, because if we are going to bring up the available free land from 0.07 more than 0.1 by virtue of adding 20,000 pop capacity, then it's more population growth. In fact, I think this is close enough that we're just going to urbanize this right now with the expectation that sometime in the nearest future it will be useful. Now, we have no control here or no proximity here, so it's not like... Oh, we have 1.6 max control. This will actually get cored, so it'll actually be 15. So we'll actually have like 20 control here. But the main idea for us is going to be, we're going to use this for sailors, and we're going to use this for trade capacity. And so it will still be pretty useful for us, as will kind of this other area to the north. And also just kind of geographically still useful, because we really don't want to allow Castile and Portugal a very easy way into Africa. And so cutting off this is going to make things more difficult so that they don't dot the coastline later. And so, I mean, they will dot the coastline later and we'll have to fight them, but we will have more time before they do that, and they will not entrench themselves as thickly into the south of this West Africa region. So, with the marble that we are now getting from the Foss market, we were able to build a good, nice building of the Royal Gardens. So we have been paying for a Diplo when it's not really necessary because we need more diplomats. And so now we'll be able to rake back the diplomacy spending a little bit. We'll just keep it where our guys are staying loyal, which incidentally is pretty low here, right? And we will still be able to gain a whole lot of diplomats. In fact, we might even be able to zero out the slider. Nope, not quite. But this is a significant building, and we haven't been able to build it for some time now. So now we're making over 100 ducats net, and this is with paying for 17 on cost of colonies. We did add another colony down here. This is where a ton of really good RGOs are, and it is on the way to the really good natural harbor that we do have in Medina, and so getting a little bit more development there will help us to get a little bit more proximity reduction, which is going to help us to eventually kind of project out from that that harbor. Natural harbors really mattering a whole lot more now, really makes it so that this is kind of, I think, the only place for us long-term to play for. But in the short term, as we enter the new age and as we get maybe some colonialism stuff going, this area is going to be really important. So I think we're actually just going to annex our way to the west, mainly for the purposes of establishing sailors, although we do have, you know, locations like this where we are adding trade and wharfs in order to get something going here. We also accepted their pops so that we could core these locations, because with control, which comes from proximity in part, you do get a modifier for monthly sailors, and so we definitely want to have more rather than less control for the sailors. So we have been doing some character gardening, making sure our ruler has a ton of wives. You can see we have a ton of children, and now it's starting to come to fruition. Our babies are all grown up. We planted them in the ground, as one does around 16 years ago, and so now we're having options, and this is partially why we've been floating open positions in the court. What we're going to do is we're going to have one member of the burghers try and keep one in the cabinet, just so we can roll the burgher debate where we get plus 10 plutocracy. And other than that, we want as many crown power characters as possible. Sure, we miss out on some of the bonuses that we get to the efficiency, but the efficiency gets like diluted out by all these other bonuses. Like in terms of what we're getting from this guy, it's equal to half his score. And we could have someone with like 90 in there, but that would just be giving us 15% more cabinet efficiency. So instead of 191%, we'd be having 206%, which, to be fair, this is like a slight and meaningful difference, but I think that the crown power that we get off of having additional members in cabinet, you can see 8.3% each, is worth more than this. And so if we just let a month pass, we'll probably get over 30 crown power, and we do. And so this is like, I think an adjustment that I think is strong enough. Although if there was one for us to change, it would be changing societal values, or to have as competent a person as possible. Currently we're pushing humanist with this because we have a lot of pops that are not our primary culture, and we're just planning on tolerating them all, and this will help us to culture convert quite a bit better. So maybe let's peel off and see what we can get in terms of this. We don't roll the burger guy, or the debate that we were just referring to, which is mildly unfortunate, but it's okay. I think that, well, we could, no, we can't even convert anyone anyways, because we have all those things in. In retrospect, it's possible that we should have, regarding the burgers, revoked this like way before the burgers got powerful, if we wanted to ever revoke this, because now that the burgers are stronger and we'll just keep making them stronger and stronger, this is going to get harder and harder to revoke. I think that in theory though, the way we'll handle it is we'll revoke the faith of the common people when we want to convert them, and then we'll just slap it back in when we kind of decide that we maybe don't want to convert as many commoners. But coming in here, nothing too crazy. We're just going to take the one that has the highest support, and we will get a little bit of a see at what we could roll. We are really hoping to roll as much plutocracy as possible. We could flip Republic once we get 95 plus. We're already at 60-ish, so we'll go for the plutocratic support. Tax exemption kind of bricks us, and then we can maybe get another 30 out. Promote cultural unity is not terrible, but it's not great either. I think that it's much easier for us just to accept the cultures than to assimilate them, but maybe not. We just don't have a lot of base assimilation speed, so this isn't going to be that useful right now, and cultural acceptance would be useful right now, but we could probably get another 30 out of here. We have been requesting additional taxes. I think we did it once. We have enough satisfaction over the 50 mark without it, such that we could really shoulder enough max tax, and I don't think there's too much we really, other than that, want to go for. I mean, we could like go for subjugate Granada, and maybe this would make some sense, but I don't think we have the ships to be able to do this. We kind of don't want to mess around up here too much, because we don't want to disrupt the flow of institutions. The institutions must flow. And they're even flowing into Foss, which is perfect for us because we have a bunch of trade with Foss, and so if they ever get to Foss, we will be set on the institutions. But maybe we just should be more aggressive. It's also like not that themey / like just kind of far from our power base, so it would be pretty marginal, but we can get land back for Tlemcen. I think that what we were trying to do is we were trying to ally these guys, but ooh, they're so close. They're so close. We actually could do this and then ally them. Just profess trust. This will give us trust for 10 years. It costs us a little bit of Diplo rep, not a big deal. And now they accept an alliance, right? And with the acceptance of the alliance, we can go for a couple of things, which is we can start to curry favors and get over 20 favors. This is actually pretty nice, because eventually we will be able to isolate from allies them against Tunis, and just go into Tunis and have Morocco not disrupt us. And also, we kind of want Morocco to stay intact. That way it'll make fighting the Iberians easier later. And so I do like this. One thing is he's probably going to pull us into offensive wars, which we're less keen on, but that's fine enough. So we'll continue to handle this. I really don't... this is probably just going to be a request taxes and then actually pass this. Actually, there's probably some laws we want. Like, we probably don't want same religion here anymore, because we want more tolerance. So we're kind of, I guess, going to pass some more marginal laws. We do want to get off of this as soon as we get any other source of prosperity, but right now it's actually just carrying our prosperity. So we'll take a quick look through the laws and then change some laws, maybe. Alright, I feel silly now. I feel silly now because there's actually a law we really want to change. Taking a look at our proximity here, we can see that our proximity to a location such as this fine location, is 39.37. We wanted to change our court. We wanted to change our court to something much better, which is itinerant court. So let's take a look through here and find the royal court customs, and we are going to switch this to itinerant court. Remember, 39.37, I think. And then with this, we will reduce significantly the chain in terms of cost. Okay, that's maybe not as impressive looking as we were expecting. Getting an additional one. I feel like it actually should be more than that for my itinerant court. Oh, the law's not in yet. That's just from 1%. So with all of the law, once the law is fully established, because it only starts out as 1%, this will have about 10 more proximity, so that'll be about 7 more control. Now, it has a lot of control right now because we are, like, we're still spinning around that cabinet action to a bunch of these different places. Not keeping super on top of it, but it is good enough to push some things in particular. Our real max control is 49, so this is going to go up to around 56, which for us represents quite a lot, because 49, this is going to be roughly a 1/7 increase, so this is going to be like a 15% increase in the value of this province to us by the virtue of us going itinerant court, because every single one of these segments, let's go into the proximity map mode, every single one of these segments has gotten cheaper, because now we have this 6.7% from land, and this going 1% going to be 10% from itinerant court in terms of percentage reduction. And as we get more and more of these, they're going to get increasingly valuable. You can see that we have nomadic tendencies, which is a flavor for the sub-Saharan Africans, which is really, really nice for us. And then we have this from our admin ideas. We have centralization up at 6.7. We can get between centralization and also land, we can get around another 8% reduction, 5% from the bridge. We will eventually get like a padlock canal here, so that'll be another 5%. And so you can see that we are starting to reduce this more and more and more. And so itinerant court's going to be a big part of that. And we weren't going itinerant court before because it was giving us a decentralization trend, or it would have. Now we actually can't push centralization, because you only push as far as 100 times this value, and then it's a brick wall. But you still want to maintain positive in this direction, because as long as positive, you won't trend back down. So since we are on the right side of things, we can spend all of our centralization trend that we had built up, and we are effectively spending that centralization trend on itinerant court because it has monthly progress towards decentralization. We are also currently running a parliament, so we're getting plus 10 relative to where we are before. So what will happen is, after the parliament's done, after itinerant court's all the way in, because it's only 10% in right now, we'll have around 9 trend towards centralization. So we won't be able to put in anything else that costs centralization, really, but we will have itinerant court. And then once we get other things that give centralization, we'll be able to make use of it. That's kind of why, just kind of coming in here, we aren't the biggest fan of this. We kind of wish we could slot this out, because we don't really like the decentralization trend. The crown power is kind of okay, but this is obviously a much better one, where we're getting centralization trend and 5% more crown power. But unfortunately, we do have blockers. I'm not sure exactly what the blocker is, but I think just as long as we're Mali and we're a monarchy, or just maybe perhaps as long as we're Mali, we have to have this in. So that is what it is. Ooh, we forgot to put the tribes thing in. The tribes do give free tolerance of heathens, and eventually we do want to fight some Christians, or get some Christians. That way we activate the Dhimmi estate, where we could get more tolerance. Currently our tolerance of heathens is actually pretty good. Actually pretty good, because Muslims are really good at this. We have tolerant ruler, that's why. Fair enough. So another thing that we do want to change is we want to eventually move on to no faith for our ruler, or for our, our heir, where it can be any faith rather than just only the true faith. And then here we're kind of waiting to see if it's stabbed to remove these guys, if we do accept our religious figure, or a religious figure, and we don't. We're looking for something a little bit better. Monthly research progress is actually kind of okay. It's just we don't benefit from the pop conversion speed, but maybe we're just getting greedy. Let's go for the monthly research progress, especially with the prospect of institutions on the horizon, where we might not get bricked on our research, because these guys are also friendly with us, and 0.15. It's not super near close, but if they're trading with Tunis, if we look at their market and we see where they're trading with, if they're trading with Tunis, and they're bringing in new stuff. Looks like they're trading with Sevilla, some of these other places. If they're trading with these locations and more of these locations are getting institutions, then that is going to make things easier and easier, or it's going to spread the institution faster and faster, so it's going to get there faster than this 0.15. We can't really see how the institutions are spreading to these other locations that they're trading with, but it is going to be a little bit better. Also, a little bit of a development in Dongola, which is that they made a market here. Which is nice for us because this is significantly closer to Niani than the Alexandria is, and they will spread institutions relatively well from Alexandria to here because it is still part of it's still part of the Mamluks. So as the Mamluks accept institutions, it will be easier to get it over here, which will, if they are friendly with these guys down here, make it easier for these areas to get the institutions. I'm not sure. It's not present in Dogla yet, but I'm not sure if they are friendly with each other, if Elodia is friendly with the Mamluks, but if they are, that's kind of a good sign because we have enough range to reach this Njimi market, and so with a little bit more range, we would gain access to kind of what the Mamluks are cooking with, which is, generally speaking, they get institutions a bit faster than the Maghrebi or the kind of Western North African nations. So our annexation finishes. We are going to accept a Fulbian culture here, which is going to give us a whole load, or it's going to give us 4 more cores over here. We did declare a war with these guys. We're just going to let our subjects handle it. I think they have it handled. Bueller, pretty sure they can handle it without our help. And we will start annexation on a couple more guys just as soon as we get enough diplomats. I think we're just going to look to annex this entire coast as quickly as possible, with the prospect of maybe getting some sailors and maybe starting some explorations into there. We held off on going after these guys. What, do we not get the... No, do we not get the slaves? I believe it's occupied by us, so the slaves should go to us. Yep, this is kind of the idea, and we held off on this because we did want the slaves that we were getting to have an opportunity to come to this location here, where we are building up, and we just got this because we do eventually want to build kind of a pathway from here over to the northwest. And so that is going to be the wrong map mode. That is going to go through kind of this river corridor. And so I think that what we're going to end up doing is having cities in all of these locations. It's a little bit awkward because we don't want to really city the dyes or the cotton. So maybe we won't do that. But having looked at this several times before, this is kind of like the best corridor to go through. And so we're getting things started to be able to come up to cities relatively early. Incidentally, I think we're going to start upgrading our first cities, because we have quite a lot of gold, and we don't necessarily have the most lucrative things to spend it on, and we finally collapsed the price of glass, which is something we were focused on. So I think we're going to upgrade this to a city and upgrade this to a city as well, which will give us a much higher max level that we can push. We're not going to upgrade this to a city, at least not quite yet, and so we'll see where we're looking after this, but we also do want to fix things up and urbanize some of this over here, and kind of take a look through. We do have these iron provinces that are good. Some of these are going to be on rivers, so we do want them long-term to be cities, and the sturdy grains is kind of like an inferior resource. Not a lot of pops in a lot of these locations, so it's not like we're urbanizing for the purposes of getting pops, but I think we're going to take a crack at these medicaments. I think that the medicaments aren't that good. We have a lot of fiber crops just overall, and I'm not sure we need to keep this one rural. This is kind of a good resource, but we're probably going to end up going through these anyways in terms of city here because of the river situation. So at the very least, we're just gonna town up this medicaments location, and we're maybe going to put something there, and I think we're gonna town up this as well. Just knowing that they're going to be towns eventually and we can build trade in them is mainly what we're going to push. They're not going to be very good for pushing a whole lot of stuff because they don't have a lot of pops, but the trade in them is going to be nice. And then here's kind of the rub here is going to be the hills, or actually they moved it. Brother. Interesting. So this used to be a hills terrain place and now it's not. We could build a town through it for the purposes of getting a canal going through this, just because this is the cheapest route. Otherwise, we have to go through a couple locations instead of just one. We could see exactly how proximity is being pushed. You can see if we go to these locations on the other side, they're coming through this province, and it is a gold province, which leaves us in a bit of an awkward position, because we want to get as much gold as possible, but we also want to get a cheaper cost through this location here. I think that we're probably just going to go around it or just go through it with kind of a normal cost, but we would want to urbanize this then. Considering we're traveling through this and this is a wheat. So let's urbanize this as well, because as it is urbanized, we will gain access to a building that'll give us 5% proximity cost reduction. And so that's kind of what we have going on here, where we are going after 3 towns and then a couple cities. We're going to put trade in all of these because they're not that proximal to the capital for production. And then we'll put more production in the capital kind of region once these cities finish, and that'll be quite nice for us. Alright, so we have much better luck in putting in a spy network in Granada than we did Morocco. We were doing Morocco for like forever and didn't get one single stolen map. But this is what we're here for. We are here for the maps, and we can take a look at Andalusia, but I think what we want to discover is this down here. So anything that's kind of in that region, we're just going to take a look for, and we're not seeing anything getting lit up, unfortunately. So they might not even have knowledge of this type of thing, but we know who does have knowledge of this type of thing, which would be Portugal. So we could go after a little bit of a Portugal peak. I think that we want to actually get South Portugal, so we will, there it is, right there. Perfect. So with South Portugal discovered, we can see what's going on and also see what's going on with the institutions. So we see that the institutions are actually pretty close to Lisboa. And this is pretty good for us, because taking a look at this, and if we search up gold specifically, and we don't look at our own trades, but we just look at local trades, we can actually see that trade is starting to occur from, this is something, a breakpoint that we were interested in, is we're pushing enough gold such that Morocco's now pushing gold out, and Morocco's benefiting from this quite a lot, but downstream we're benefiting from it because it's creating more demand for our gold, so our gold price isn't collapsed, we get more tax, we get more when we trade the gold to FAS by virtue of them trading out. But also, if we just look at the imported trades, just generally speaking, or actually, other people are also importing from them. Looks like, wait, Sevilla is sending gold to FAS? That doesn't make sense. What? Are they just moving it in circles? That works for us. But what we were going to point out is imports. Okay, so yeah, that was the only gold going into FOSS. I guess that's a UI thing. If we clear out this, we can see what all is... Oh, we're looking at the Sevilla market. No, we're looking at the FAST market. We want to look at imports only and see where the markets these are coming from. As these places get the institutions, we will be able to get more institutional growth in FOSS. And so this is going to be good for us. I think that we're going to stop making a spy network on him, though, and start making a spy network on Portugal instead, because they are more likely to discover what it is we're looking for. And we made it past the first 50 years here as Mali. Things are looking pretty good. We annexed a couple subjects. We have to annex this guy because these guys, our relations with them aren't so good, but we are going there next, kind of preparing ourselves for our colonial empire. We're going to look at the proximity map mode rather than the control map mode to get an idea of how well we are projecting our power, but really benefiting from all those proximity cost reductions such that we're even pushing power all the way over to here. We have 1.3% proximity here. Now, it would be better if we just built a bailiff here, if we were going to keep that rural, but that is still going to be nice. That's where the proximity from these are coming from, is from bailiffs, because these places having to go through a corridor is such that they're basically never going to actually have proximity until we have something like railways. So things are looking pretty good from that perspective. From the budgetary perspective, we are doing pretty well. Minting is starting to bring down, or we are starting to bring down the inflation. I guess actually maybe not anymore. It's starting to become a little bit more reliant on gold, but we are paying for quite a bit of colonies. We're making a good amount of tax income. Things are looking pretty good right now, and we are expanding out a few colonies. You can see here, these are our choices, and so we are already starting on the colonization really early. It is pretty expensive, but we don't really necessarily have that great of stuff to spend money on, because a lot of this place is like relatively low population, and so it's not like we can build up really tall urban areas areas anyways. It really scales quite a lot in terms of max levels with population, which is why we're pushing these up to like level 9, because they are urbanized and they are higher level, they have more pops, these types of things. If we take a look, we can actually even see where their building levels are coming from, and we can see that development is 1, we don't have very good dev, population is 1, the population there is okay, and city is giving us +5 there, so that's going to make it very, very lucrative for us. But this is where all the pops are, or this is in the south is where all the pops are, and so by colonizing we unlock the pops, and so we are effectively in the unlocking mode. But as we enter the next age, there's going to be so much that allows us to colonize way faster, like plus 50% colonial migration. So we'll really, really take off once we start getting those institutions, which incidentally is why we really care about discovering these areas, because having discovered these areas allows you to roll the New World institution. But also, if we don't roll it ourselves, we would love to make sure that we can trade directly with people who do roll it, of which the likely candidates to roll it are people in Iberia and the Pope. So we do want to discover our way over to these places before then. We do have 50 years, and that's kind of what we have going on the horizon. We are going to probably start slave raiding over here rather than subjugating these places directly. So that is going to be the near future. What the ideas are to bring more pops back here, and then if we accept those pops, we will free them, and then that way we can get these areas populated, because this is our power base, but it doesn't really have the pops. This place has a ton of pops, but we can't really project control over there, so we'd really rather just bring them over. So that will be our plan. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this starting steps here as Mali. I think we're going to do a couple other episodes because you guys were kind of keen on Mali just in general, it seemed like. And so we could see how this develops, see how we become a colonial empire, these types of things. And it's a bit more of a long-term type of play, so we will be doing that. But if you did want to support the channel, something you can do is if you are going to pay full price for the game, which is of course not all of you, and you order it through the Steam web store, what will happen is you can use our code generalist in all caps. This won't give you a discount, but it will send 12% of the sale our way. You can use this for any Paradox product. It doesn't have to be Europa Universalis 5. But before you do this, make sure that you check on Steam to see that, to make sure it's the same price. It will be the same price if it's USD, but it might not be the same price if you're in a different currency, this type of thing. But other than all that, I hope you enjoyed and have a good one.